Be with you, both in studio for the first time in a while. Greg McElroy will be on the college football playoff ranking show tonight. And Greg, this one's going to be interesting because I think a lot of people will use this as their measuring stick for what will happen this weekend. So if this team's here and they win the ACC championship game, that means they'll be here. If that team loses that game, that means that team will be here. How much, I'm going to call it untraditional movement. I don't know what else to call it. How much maybe unexpected untraditional movement do you think there will be between this week's ranking and next week's ranking, regardless of the conference championship game wins and losses, as in going away from the AP mindset of, well, this team's always been here, so they have to stay there. This team's always been here, they have to stay here. And I guess, will they hit the reset button next week regardless?
Well, I mean, based on tradition and history and precedent, the committee treats every single rankings release as if it has a life of its own. And then when we go off the air, that ranking dies for the committee, not for necessarily us in television. Of course, the number sits next to the team's name for the next week. But I think it's a situation this year where I continue to be convinced that Alabama's getting in. I've thought that for a while now. I said I wouldn't want to be the runner-up in the ACC. I wouldn't want to be a 2-loss ACC team. I think Alabama's resume and their wins will overshadow their losses. I've been saying that. Whether they should or not is up to the person. I, for one, want teams that at their best can beat anyone. That's I've always felt that way. A team that can rise to the occasion on the biggest possible stage. So if you don't have great wins, it's hard for me to have a lot of respect for you. That's the way I've always worked. Dating back to 2014 when this whole process started, that's what I've always put a premium on, is who did you beat? Well, Alabama, in all likelihood, assuming LSU gets in tonight, has beaten 4 teams in the top 25. When comparing the other teams that they're being measured against, potentially a 2-loss ACC runner-up, a la SMU or Miami. Miami's best win could very well be Louisville, who will likely find their way in the top 25 tonight. Who's ahead?
Could be Louisville.
What?
Who else would even? Florida?
Florida, I think, is the best team they played, but at that time, Florida was very different than the team that we saw at the end of the year. So, best team they played is Florida. But the team that...
Best win as far as stock is going to be Louisville, yes.
Correct. And Louisville will likely be in tonight, as will LSU. Which one's ahead?
Well, based on the amount of teams that Louisville apparently is standing up in this whole thing, they should be in.
Right?
Well, I'm just saying, SMU is leaning on them to an extent. Miami's leaning on them to an extent. They should be in the top 25. If they're that important, then they should be in there.
Agree. So it'll be interesting.
Not just for that reason, but
you want my opinion? You want what I think's going to happen? I think Alabama's going to be ahead of Miami tonight, and people are going to lose their minds. I think that's what's going to happen. I would not be that surprised if Ole Miss is ahead of them too. This whole notion of South Carolina being ahead of Alabama and Ole Miss, I don't see it personally. I know they've finished strong. What's South Carolina's best win? An 18th ranked Clemson? I'm asking the question. Losing close to me does not matter as much as beating good teams. And while South Carolina did beat A&M, who's likely going to fall out of the top 25, potentially, they might stay in just ahead of LSU, who they happen to beat head-to-head, and their record is the same. So maybe they stay in. But I don't know what other win they have that's super impressive. Whereas both Alabama and Ole Miss beat a potential SEC champion in Georgia. And that's I think where the conversation ends.
What if we flipped it around and said, how would you weigh the losses against one another for those teams?
Well, like I said, if I were on the committee, I'd be one of 13 people. Me, personally, I have never put as much stock into who you lost to, which is why I have continued to be a supporter of Notre Dame all year. Because I don't really care if they lost to NIU. There isn't a good loss to me. All losses are created equal. They all stink, whether it's to a good team or to a bad team. Like, you failed. That is a loss. Whether you won, lost to your teams, the team's losses aren't as bad. Cool, the team's losses aren't as bad. Yeah, you didn't lose as bad. You lost to good teams if you're South Carolina. Agree, but guess what? The two good teams you lost to are sitting in front of you in the rankings because they beat you head to head. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that to me, I just feel like I'm taking crazy pills. I think there's no argument.
But you said go back to the Florida discussion that they were
Correct.
a different team.
Yes.
Could you also have some of that discussion with South Carolina?
No,
against
because you
LSU
can't put
when you
Florida.
lost your quarterback.
If you want to put the 12 teams that are playing the best right now, tell me Florida's not a playoff team. They are, but you're not going to do that. Come on.
I'm gonna say just outside the top 12 teams in the country right now.
Maybe.
I think they're a very different team. There's a lot that I like about them. Trust me.
Yeah.
I think Lagway is going to be a legitimate bona fide star. I think Trayvon Baugh is going to be legit. There's a lot to like about him. The defensive line is playing the way we thought we were going to play all year right now.
Yes.
But I don't know if they're in the top 12 yet.
Well,
but it is
like,
one of the weird things about this playoff. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. And SMU might get in now, but at the time it was SMU, it was Arizona State, it was South Carolina. Who else was hot at the end of the year that was playing good football that probably wasn't going to get in? There's a couple other teams that we were talking about. Those teams, I do believe there's a portion of me that believes, yes, while you grade it on its totality and you do take the body of work, we want the best 12 teams in now. And we're never going to get that because it's going to be what you did all year. And if you how many wins you stacked up, whatever. But if you're going to say, okay, that was a different Florida team, so Miami doesn't get as much credit, but I mean, did South Carolina not lose their quarterback against LSU?
Yeah.
So they should deserve a little credit for that.
When you run your quarterback and you have a guy that runs, that's what happens. You run that risk.
Yeah.
I mean, and the ironic thing is he got hurt in a drop back.
It is hard. It's hard to argue they don't have great wins. Like Missouri's just not it's a 9-win football team, but they're not great. Same with Clemson.
When it's not a great win when compared to what Bama did to Missouri.
But they also I think you and I are on different pages with every loss is exactly the same. Because that's where I hear a lot of people going at South Carolina. It's not that you don't have the great wins. The majority of what I hear is, well, Ole Miss smashed them at home. Beat them by
That's a bad one.
Beat them by 24 points.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Oh, and I think you'll appreciate this. Y'all watched that game? Because I did. I saw a DB fall down for like an 80-yard touchdown.
No, I saw a DB fall down and then he actually fumbled. Juice Wells did.
Okay. But I didn't see a team.
Sure.
I did not see a team that just bludgeoned the other team for 4 quarters.
No, they capitalized on another team's mistakes.
Yeah. So
if you're going to but they capitalize on other team. I mean, so here's how I look at it. Like, is Ole Miss getting credit for beating them by 24? Yeah, of course. Yes. Is Oklahoma given credit for beating Alabama by 21? Absolutely. But we both acknowledge that the reason why those games got sideways the way they did is because of Alabama's and South Carolina's mistakes. No? That's you have to weigh that in.
That's part of winning football. There's no
100%.
doubt.
That's part of winning football. And I don't have a problem. Like, I don't think South Carolina, I'll just flat out be honest. I thought Alabama played with their food against South Carolina too. Like, that game was not really, honestly, outside of a Hail Mary, a 4th and 9 conversion, a safety that was taken by Jalen that was inexcusable, and an interception thrown by Jalen at the end of the half that was inexcusable. That game really wasn't that competitive.
Took advantage of their mistakes.
Correct. But Bama still won the game. So I think that this whole they lost by 2. They should have won the Bama game. If I hear they should have won the Bama game, in what way? Like, Bama should have won that game by 2 touchdowns.
Well, first off, there are no should-haves in football.
Exactly. So all I would say is this. I don't think South Carolina is going to be in the conversation, personally. I think the conversation is really about Alabama against Miami. Because the committee's already shown what's changed with South Carolina the last few weeks. They beat Clemson. Okay, that's good. That's a good win. Ole Miss and Bama, I think, have been held in higher regard in the last few weeks than South Carolina. And South Carolina's Clemson win is not going to move them past a team that beat them by 3+ touchdowns. It's just not going to. If Alabama was the team sitting in front of South Carolina by 1 spot and people really watched that game and believed that South Carolina was the better team, maybe they did. I I don't think that many people could come to that conclusion after watching it, but I think maybe there's a possibility. The fact that Ole Miss is between the two, tell me, give me one justifiable reason how, if you were, let's just say you're Shane Beamer and you are giving a pitch to the committee, they invite you to come to Dallas and to make a pitch on South Carolina's behalf. Anything you said to me as a committee member, I would just return with, you lost by 3.5 touchdowns to the team you're being compared to. That was all I would need to say. So what other argument can you make on their behalf?
That team also lost to a 4-loss team.
To a 8-loss team.
We didn't. I'm sorry. I meant to say 4-win team.
Yeah.
We didn't do that. We don't have that
at
blemish.
home.
We don't have that kind of a blemish on our record. So while we played poorly at home against them, and yes, they were the better team that day, we have a young defensive end. We have a young quarterback. We have other young offense. We're playing 2 freshman offensive linemen. We're a team that has grown throughout the course of the year, beginning to find ourselves, and we think right now we're one of the best 12 teams in college football.
Great with that. You still lost to Ole Miss by 24 points with your quarterback,
who is better now than he was then. You asked me how I would sell this. I'm telling you how I'd sell it.
I agree. I'm just saying how I would push back on it. So that's I think how it would likely go. It doesn't mean I don't have tremendous respect for South Carolina. I think they're great. I can tell you this: I wouldn't want to play them, but I've been saying that for 10 weeks.
But let me just.
I've been saying that since I saw him play against Kentucky.
This is where people are going to hate this, but I have to bring this up and at least throw it out there.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that you're doing this, but other people are. If you are going to live and die on head-to-head, do you not have to do that in its totality?
Yes. I think head-to-head
So Vanderbilt's ranked ahead of Alabama.
No, because they don't
if we're living and dying on head-to-head.
No, you can't, because you have to take into account head-to-head. When all else is equal, head-to-head is the ultimate tiebreaker for me. That's how I evaluate it.
I won't push back on that.
Because if you have the same record, same amount of wins, losses, comparable strength of schedule, similar, if you're in the same conference, you know what I mean? All things considered, head to head is the ultimate tiebreaker. Hey, you know what? Ole Miss and Alabama, they've played a really similar schedule. They kind of have the best win. You know, they have this, they both have their best win is the same team. The Alabama strength of schedule is, I don't know. I think it's 17th. Ole Miss's strength of schedule is 19th. Their strength of record's the same. Their game control's the same. Alabama played a slightly tougher non-conference schedule, but it's not like Wisconsin at 5-7 is some world beater. Yeah, the other 2 teams they played in South Florida and Western Kentucky are pretty good, but at the same time, that's not going to make or break you. So all things considered, man, it's hard to tell these teams apart. Who beat who? Oh, Ole Miss beat Bama. Sounds good. They're ahead of Bama. You know what I mean? I know they didn't play this year.
Yeah, I get it.
But that's how I do it. Like, that to me is the ultimate tiebreaker.
Allow me to reintroduce a sliver of evidence from the preseason in which I believe we all agreed upon, and I believe we were all on the same page with. And that was not a 9-3, but a 10-2 Ole Miss should not make the college football playoff. Now, at that time, we didn't know what everybody else was going to be, how it was going to look, and what else was going to happen. Because of that schedule, we sat back and said, nope. They dropped 2 against that schedule. Can't do it. Can't allow it. Now they've dropped 3, and we're sitting here making an argument for them.
Yeah.
Because another thing that I would bring up if I were Shane Beamer and says, you know what? If I would have had that month-and-a-half runway into my season, we'd probably be pretty good too. We'd have been a lot better when we played Ole Miss.
Yep.
If we had a bunch of JV scrimmages leading up to the game that we lost to a team that's 4-8, we'd probably be a lot better too.
Yep.
But we didn't have that runway. We weren't able to spend the first quarter of the season paving our driveway to get ready to go out and play everybody else.
Old Dominion.
They were.
Old Dominion.
That's one game, but I'm saying they had
at
Furman,
Kentucky,
Middle Tennessee, Wake, Georgia Southern before you lost to Kentucky is
Correct.
how I would state it and how I would bring it up.
Yeah, I don't think there's any problem with that. I do think that Ole Miss's non-conference.
We had Kentucky on the road week 2 when they were actually a much better football team, and we beat them.
And not just
we had
beat
LSU at home week 3 when they were a better football team and had them on the ropes, couldn't pull it off, but were competitive in said game. So If you're going back and forth and presenting different arguments, and I was South Carolina, that's how I would present that one. I'll make sure everybody remembered that before the season we said 10-2, just like you, Missouri. But now Missouri has the same record, and we're saying, hell no, they're not a playoff team. Ole Miss, same record, got to get them in.
It's amazing how much one win will do for you. Just one win.
Well, but if it's a really good win, it should do a lot for you.
I agree. All it takes is one. All it takes is one good win to change and alter your perception. The other thing I would say about Ole Miss, and I think Ole Miss, have been saying this for weeks, they might be the team I'd least like to play on their best day in all of college football.
You and Jordan Rodgers.
On their best day, tell me a team that you would less like to play than Ole Miss on their best day.
How many of their best days have we had this year?
2.
Oklahoma, LSU, South Carolina, Kentucky, Arkansas. I'll give you that. I'll give you Arkansas. They put 63 on them.
Their defense didn't play very well that day.
The ones I said before, Arkansas, are all no's. Oklahoma had them on the ropes without maybe attempting a pass for a half. LSU, I wouldn't say that was their best ball where they lost.
They played awful against LSU.
And even South Carolina, you won by 24. You didn't look like world beaters in that game. I'm sorry. I watched that game. I don't care what the score is. I've watched the film. That wasn't the 85 Bears.
It was.
Georgia, I'll give you that one. Florida, no. Mississippi State was up at the half.
Yeah.
So how many of their best have we gotten this year?
We got it against Arkansas.
Middle Tennessee. We counting that one?
We're not talking about non-conference. We got it against Arkansas and we got it against Georgia. I mean, those are 2 pretty good performances.
Yes.
But I do think, though, that when I look at them and I look at how they lost and what they did to lose, none of their 3 games were they beaten. Every single one of their 3 games, they beat themselves. And I know that people don't want to hear that, and people don't understand that. And I know that maybe as a coach speak thing to say, but I think people that played, people that have been around it, even people that you don't have to have played, when you watch the game, who's in control. Like, an Ole Miss was in complete control of all 3 of those games until they wet the bed. And they did so on 3 different occasions. They are literally 2 plays away from being a 1-loss football team. And they're probably 2 plays away from being 2 more plays away from being undefeated. They're probably 4 plays away, literally 4 individual snaps away from being an undefeated football team. And there's nobody with margins that close in the entire sport outside of Oregon who is undefeated. Like, Ohio State's probably 4 plays away from having 2 or 3 more losses. You know what I mean? And they're a really good football team.
They're another one that's just getting a complete, like a complete hall pass. I don't understand. I'll be interested to see where they are tonight, but I already feel like it's going to be higher than we think.
The Big Ten to me is so average. It's just the bottom of the Big Ten is just not good. I don't know what to tell you. Like, it is just bad news, Bears. I mean, really bad. So I don't know, man. Like, I think Ohio State gets propped up because they have a really good roster and really good talent. I also think they have a chance on their best day to be as good as anybody, which I respect. And most of the time we have gotten their best. There have been about 3 games where we haven't gotten their best. So I do respect them a little bit more, but their O-line is not good, even though they're Joe Moore Award semifinalists. Don't blame me.
It's not untrue.
I'm not on the committee. Oh, they're one of the best.
Were they a finalist?
I don't care. Yeah, I don't know how many y'all put out. How many finalists are there?
The list that I sent you the other day.
That's the finalists?
Yeah.
I don't remember how many teams were on it. But no, they weren't.
They're not.
So they're on the watch list and the semifinal list, but not the...
They made it through the first cut, which to me tells me all I need to know.
You let them to the dance. Okay, all right.
Alabama, Army, Indiana, Iowa, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Oregon, Tennessee, Texas, Tulane. So they were.
And for that reason, the Joe Moore Award
You're out. It's okay.
Is quite literally dead in my mind this season.
You do you.
On the list.
Next year, it can come back into the good graces.
You gotta wait
but just
till 25.
because you probably have guys at, PFF voting for...
Nuts, no, don't. Flu season ramping up. Make your home healthier with Trane's Clean Effects Home Air Cleaner. Removes up to 99.9% of airborne particles, including those that cause virus. 100 times more effective than standard air filters. 8 times more effective than HEPA room filters. Find a dealer near you at Trane.com. Andy Burcham, 8 a.m. Talk recap Iron Bowl. Talk some Auburn hoops with him. James Crepea covers Oregon. They are in the Big Ten championship game. He'll join us at 8:25. We'll get about it at 9. Heather Dinich joins us at 9:20 to help get us set for the College Football Playoff Rankings show tonight. And Mike Lutzenkirchen joins us on the other side right here on Mac and Cube in the morning. $7:24 right here on Jocks 94.5. Today is Giving Tuesday, by the way, if you were not aware. So a lot of folks out there that need some help, want some help, that you might be able to get behind and give a little bit of assistance to. And today would be the day that we motivate you to do that. We'll have Mike Lutzenkirchen on in just a moment to discuss how you can help his foundation. But first, I want to tell you about your CBD store. If you are dealing with arthritis, anxiety, or your pet is as well, your CBD store has products that can help at the largest brick and mortar CBD retailer in the world. Your CBD store helped a couple pets in our household having trouble getting around, getting them down the stairs, moving around much better now thanks to the product that they have there. Gut health, skin care can help you with that. Weight loss, the Trim by SunMed on the shelves now at your CBD store. Go check out one of their 3 locations: Highway 280 by Bailey Brothers, 150 by the Cage in Cleaver, Trustful just off 459, your CBD store. where good health hits home. Let's bring in Mike Lutzenkirchen of the Lutze 43 Foundation, who joins us now on the Buyers Right Hotline to discuss Giving Tuesday. Mike, what's going on with you, man? How are you?
I'm great, Cole. Greg, hope you guys are doing well. Had a great Thanksgiving. Excited about tonight's announcement of the college playoffs and just enjoying what's going on globally with Giving Tuesday.
Yeah, a lot going on in college football, obviously, and an easy way to get distracted by some things that really matter. Giving Tuesday being one of those, Mike. Kind of tell us what's on the front of mind for the Lutze 43 Foundation right now.
Yeah, Cole, for your audience, Giving Tuesday started back in 2012. It's become a global, the Tuesday after Thanksgiving, where nonprofits that are doing great work, and we hope we're including that statement there, just reach out to their database of constituent followers and social media, say, learn about what we're doing. If you got an opportunity to give a few dollars or thousands, please consider helping us out. And it's hard to believe, Cole, but it's the 10th anniversary of the Lutze 43 Foundation. I think many of your fans know that we lost Philip June 29, 2014 in a single vehicle crash that involved distracted, impaired, and unsafe driving.
It is wild to think that it's been that long, Mike, and it's I can remember that day vividly, finding out. And what you've done has just been incredible, being able to turn it into a remarkable foundation that's doing a lot to help a lot of people. What are some of the newer things that the Lutze 43 Foundation has been doing, is trying to do to continue putting your mission to work?
Yeah, Cole, what kind of sets this up, quite frankly, is we're just coming off of the Thanksgiving holiday. As we get closer to year-end with Thanksgiving to Christmas to New Year's, unfortunately, we see a spike over that period of time in our country where we see roadway fatalities that are due to crashes. And crashes are caused by poor decisions by somebody in a vehicle, whether it's the driver or the passenger. And, the state of Alabama, they're the second deadliest state per million drivers in the country over Thanksgiving weekend. And I don't have any data to share about the number of fatalities on Alabama roadways over that period of time, but in Georgia, where we're at, we saw 17 lives lost on our roadways through crashes. Again, all avoidable. Many of them, they weren't wearing seatbelts, distracted or impaired. I guess the positive news is it's down 6 deaths for the same period in Georgia the prior year, but we still lost 17 lives. And that's what motivates us. And Cole, I'm excited to share with your audience. I'm heading over to Alabama tomorrow to speak to 800 kids, 7th through 12th grade at Central High School in Clay County. I'll do a 1-hour all-school assembly. It'll be titled Philip's Legacy. What legacy are you leaving? That continues to be the talk. I've delivered over 450 of them since we lost Philip and started the Lutze 43 Foundation. But I'm also real excited that when we get into February, we're going to deliver our first 5-hour safe driving summit in the state of Alabama in a partnership with the Alabama Department of Transportation. We're doing that up at Wallace State Community College in Hanceville, where we'll be bringing in 400 students from Winston County Public High Schools to just put them in front of experts from healthcare, law enforcement, first responders, professional drivers of these 80,000-pound tractor trailers, and just educate them on making smarter and better decisions, both as drivers and team passengers.
How can people get involved?
Yeah, Greg, we'd love to check out our website. We just kind of relaunched it again. We're proud of some of the changes we made to it, but it's lutze43.org. That's LUTZIE 43.org. When we got to COVID, guys, we saw kind of what I call a spike in what was recognized as corporate social responsibility. And what motivates me, having lost Philip, and what we're doing right now is taking and observing that corporate America is so investing in causes like Giving Tuesday, great programs like Alzheimer's research, breast cancer awareness, Wounded Warrior Project, all incredible causes. But we think we've identified a gap. We don't believe in general the corporate sector looks at roadway safety as their responsibility. They look to the government to do it. And in Alabama, your residents would look to Alabama Law Enforcement Agency, local county and city police organization, first responders, the Department of Transportation, which does a great job in Alabama. But the Department of Transportation, they're focused on the infrastructure. Where do you put a roundabout in? Where do you put rumble strips in? Where do you consider reducing speeds? What we think we're trying to do is address the behavior of the driver. And if we can get to anybody from age 15 to 65 and older and change some poor driving behaviors into strong driving behaviors, we think we're gonna make a difference. And I'd like to think here in Georgia, with the reduction of 6 deaths over Thanksgiving, what we're doing is contributing to that.
It's excellent work that you guys are doing, Mike. And I know we all suffer from it, be it our phones or looking down, shuffling with other items in our car, trying to find a piece of paper, whatever it is, and just getting distracted. And you're doing great work trying to help everybody avoid those things. And specifically, like you said, here at the holiday season. I hope everyone will take some time and consider and giving to you guys here on Giving Tuesday. And we appreciate you hanging out with us for a few minutes.
Guys, I appreciate, just in closing to your audience, 61% of our roadway deaths, somebody was not wearing a seatbelt. So just put a seatbelt on. It's a 2-second habit. Philip didn't have a seatbelt on, and I believe statistically he'd still be with us. Slow down and put your phones down. But God bless you guys. Appreciate you supporting what we're doing.
Thank you, Mike. Always appreciate the time.
Take care, guys. Have a great day.
You too. Mike Lutzenkirchen joining us on the Buyers Right Hotline, obviously Giving Tuesday. If you can, Lutzy43.org. Please help them. And just anybody out there looking to, if you have a foundation that you like, that you care about, today's the day to try to help them and do a little bit more. The seatbelt thing is just wild. That people still run around not wearing their seatbelt. That's just, it's unbelievable. I can't remember what the car was that I had this weekend in Baton Rouge. It was a hybrid, and I want to say it was like a Chevy Equinox or something. The gear shift, I remember, was like up where you normally do your turn signal.
Right,
it was
right.
awful. But it wouldn't even, you couldn't put it in gear if you didn't have your seatbelt in. That was the first car that I've had that did that. Like usually you get the noise and whatnot, and it's, you want that to go away or don't want that to start. But this thing wouldn't even go in gear if you didn't have your seatbelt on. So,
yeah, which is a good thing. Like I know, some people, my wife, for example, like she was not great about wearing her seatbelt when we started dating. It was like, you're putting your freaking seatbelt on. Like when you're in my car, you wear a seatbelt. Like I am very hardcore about that. I don't know if my mom scared it into me or what, but yeah, it's crazy that's still a thing. I didn't know that was. I guess in newer cars, sure, but I guess maybe in older cars, you don't have that type of reminder, the beeping at you.
And even if you're not in the front part, not in the driver, like you think, oh, you're in the back seat, you're okay, you're fine. No, like no matter if you're in a car, wear a seatbelt.
So preventable.
Absolutely.
Yep.
All right, we've got a lot more to get to today. Top 3 coming up at the end of this hour. Andy Bertram at the top of next hour. Let's debate these teams that are on the brink. We already had a little bit of that discussion in hour number 1. Also, I want to hear from our listeners today when we're discussing these teams that may get in to the college football playoff, might get in, should get in, you want to get in, arguing to get in, coaches, ADs out there stating their cases on social media. What should the number 1 item in the criteria be for you? What do you value the most? 800-239-9569. Text in 205-834-9450. That and more next right here on Jocks 94.5. Tuesday, December 3rd, Jocks 94.5, Giving Tuesday. And like I said, if there's whatever foundation out there that is looking for some help, Lutzy 43 Foundation, obviously, that is one that we want everybody to support if you get a chance to. And since it's Giving Tuesday, 7:36 a.m. Tuesday, December 3rd, right here on Jocks 94.5, I was going to throw this one out. I didn't get a chance to mention this in our game Saturday night, but I had a chance to talk to Will Campbell for a while last week, LSU offensive tackle, one of the best tackles in college football. And he has started a foundation, the Tarver Braddock Foundation. TarverBraddockFoundation.org is where you can go. His cousin, best friend, was Tarver Braddock, lost him in a hunting campfire. It's a tragic story. 16 years old. And Will just raved about what a great kid he was, how cool he was, how much fun he was, how he was just the life of everything that they did, brought so much joy to so many people there in Neville, Louisiana, basically a suburb of West Monroe. And I thought it was pretty cool because, a lot of these foundations, for good reason, are very specific. They do certain things for certain people because of a certain reason. And they said because he did so much good for so many other people, that they wanted to start this foundation with his parents, and it's to spread love, laughter, happiness through random acts of kindness. So the foundation literally just comes up with cool things to do and goes and does them for people. Just showed up at a grocery store on Wednesday in West Monroe and bought people's Thanksgiving groceries.
Whoa.
Just kind of out of nowhere.
That's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
So
Just random acts of kindness.
I like just if they can think of something or somebody has an idea and they have the means to go do it, they'll go get it done that day. And so I thought it was pretty cool that he is helping push that, and it means so much to him. And I thought I would throw it out, give a little shout out here on the show because I was not able to get that in.
How do you spell Tarver Braddock?
Tarver Braddock.
Tarver?
Tarver Braddck. OCK.
Love it.
TarverBraddockFoundation.org is where you can go.
Love that. I like the way he plays. So I'm gonna make a donation.
You have to love it. And got a tattoo of his name, and says he carries with him all the time. Thinks about him every day, and he says I don't have to think about him when I play because I know he's watching.
Gosh, a hunting campfire. That is just tragic.
If you I could give you the background of the whole story. I honestly don't want to. He had other friends with him who got out. He did not, and it just apparently the rate in which it happened was devastating.
Awful.
And unfortunate that he lost his life. It's such a young age. You just hate that. And for his friends to be there with him and some to get out, you imagine what they're living with on a daily basis, just brutal. It's an unfortunate story. But if you can help, it'd be great. I know they would appreciate it. I know Will and Tarver Braddock's family would appreciate it as well. So when we come back, tell you what we'll do. We'll do our top three on the other side. We'll get Andy Bertram at 8, and then in the 8 o'clock hour, we'll start to kick around some of these teams. As far as South Carolina, Alabama, Ole Miss, maybe we throw Miami into that mix as well, because it seems like those are the teams that are going to be heavily debated as far as who should be in and who should be out of the college football playoff. Before we do that, G-Mac, tell our listeners about Polar Bear Services.
Well, Polar Bear Services can do so many things around your house. You'll appreciate very much the type of service you'll receive when you call Weston and the guys. They can do so many different things. Man, it's awesome to know that I can just make one phone call and I can have plumbing worked on. I can have a generator installed, and I obviously have my HVAC system taken care of and the system tuned up, ready to roll, because we know it's going to be cold this summer, or this winter. Summer, if it's cold in the summer, bring that on. But unlikely here in Central Alabama. So know that when you call Polar Bear HVAC, you're going to get the pros. You're going to get guys that know how to do it the right way, and they're going to try to save you money in the process. So remember, if you have a problem with your electrical, plumbing, heat, or air, just pick up the phone and call the Bears. 205-497-BEAR. That's 497-BEAR.
All right, we'll talk little college football playoff and then get to our top three with a little bit of an NFL twist next, right here on Jocks 94.5. 7:44 a.m. Tuesday, December 3rd. This is Jocks 94.5. Listen online, jocksfm.com. Apps in your app store, iPhone, Android. Can download that for free. Watch live on YouTube. Just search JOX 945, and you can watch each and every morning. Florida State set to hire Nebraska defensive coordinator Tony White. This was not the name that I had heard that was going to get that job for the last couple of weeks, but not a bad hire nonetheless for Coach Norvell.
Very good hire. Expect man and 5-man pressures. Let's ride.
Neil Brown out at West Virginia. That one surprise you at all?
Not really. He felt like he was playing on borrowed time. Even last year, after
thought it was going to happen last year.
After they went 9-4, it's like people still weren't happy. I'm like, all right, you better have a big year in 24. But a 6-6 season with that roster, frankly, and what they brought back, it's pretty understandable.
We know Purdue fired Ryan Walters. We know Gus Malzahn's heading to Florida State as the offensive coordinator, which leaves UCF open. FIU is going to fire Mike McIntyre, or did fire Mike McIntyre. Texas Tech firing defensive coordinator Tim DeRuyter. Kennesaw State hires Jerry Mack. App State fires Sean Clark, so he's out at App. Temple hiring Sam Houston State head coach Casey Keeler, who has had a ton of success. Two different levels. He's done a great job, but just good luck.
Why would you take that?
Good luck. That one has not been able to get going for a while.
If you do, you get a job in like 2 years. Manny Diaz, Matt Rule. Well, Manny Diaz was there for 30 seconds and then went to become the Miami head coach. So, hey, jumping off spot for him. Matt Rule, Manny Diaz, and Jeff Collins.
Okay.
All three of those guys were hired at some point and then ultimately got Power 5 jobs after the fact. So maybe it's a jumping off point.
You got to be a little bit good, though, for it to be that. And it's been a couple minutes since that's actually taken place. So we'll see. Maybe it works out. Maybe it doesn't. But we bring you our top three each and every morning. This morning usually focuses around the NFL. Have a pretty good idea that we will get to some of the things from last night, which I want to kind of hit separately, but go ahead with your top three for today, Damien.
Yeah, top three NFL performances from the weekend, and it starts last night.
Last night, maybe?
It's a few. It's a few. Number one, for sure. We talked about the one who's throwing him the passes, but Jerry Jeudy, 9 catches, 235 yards, and a touchdown.
Second 200-yard receiver to lose this year.
Who's the other?
Jamar Chase.
Yeah, on Thursday a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. What was that, 278?
It was a lot.
Who cares? Receiving yards don't matter.
Got theirs.
Wouldn't say that. But also somebody else had a bunch of catches, but they also lost as well. How about our buddy Brock Bowers for the Las Vegas Raiders in a 1917 loss to the Kansas City Chiefs? 10 catches, 140 yards, and a tutty.
People actually thought he wasn't going to work.
What?
There were people around the draft saying, you can't be that kind of successful in the NFL.
He's a unicorn. Never seen anything like that. It won't work up here. Shut up. I'm so sick of NFL talent evaluators. Oh, they don't know. Those college guys don't know. Dude, just watch him.
Please. Yeah. But and also can't forget about your Pittsburgh Steelers, Cole. Russell Wilson, 29 for 38, 414 yards, and 3 touchdowns.
Had a day.
He did indeed.
All right, let's go back to last night for just a moment. A couple things that I wanted to get to with this one. The Broncos took out the Browns 41-32. Broncos 8-5, by the way. Browns go to 3-9. Bo Nix, 18 of 35, 294, 1 touchdown, 2 picks. Jameis Winston, 34 of 58, 497 yards, 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions.
It's the most Jameis box score ever.
I'll give you the most Jameis stat ever, literally ever, here in just a moment. You mentioned Jerry Jeudy, 9 for 235, a touchdown. Elijah Moore, 8 for 111 and a touchdown. Marvin Mims, 3 for 105. Cortland Sutton, 6 for 102. It was basically a career game for half the roster. So here's what we had in that game last night. First game since 1950 to feature an offensive touchdown of 70-plus yards on consecutive plays. That was Marvin Mims' 93-yard touchdown reception, then Jerry Jeudy's 70-yard touchdown reception. Broncos, 41 points, most in the game since 2018. Bo Nix last night, I mentioned the 294, 2 touchdowns, interceptions, second game-winning drive in the fourth quarter or overtime this season. 93-yard touchdown pass to Mims, second long passing touchdown by a rookie since
Jameis Winston.
Cam.
Marcus Mariota.
Charlie Batch,
Charlie
98
Batch.
yards
CB.
Let's
against the
ride.
Bears in 1998.
How back is Charlie Batch?
Well, he's not, but he was then.
20th century quarterback.
Marvin Mims, Cortland Sutton, first Bronco teammates with 100 receiving yards each in a game since.
Demarius Thomas and
You're halfway there. You're halfway there.
the white dude.
No. Shoot. Emmanuel Sanders.
Yes. What year?
2013.
No, 16. You were close, though. Hey, listen, I'm Nick Bonito, sack, interception return for touchdown, joins Von Miller in 2012 as only Bronco players to have 10 sacks and a pick six in a season.
Oklahoma.
Good
Here you go. Ready?
Good company to be in.
Get ready for this one.
Let's go.
Jameis Winston, I told you, 34-58, 497, 4 touchdowns, 3 interception, 2 for touchdowns. So technically threw 6 touchdowns last night.
There we go.
Most passing yard in the game in Browns history.
There we go.
Second most in a game on Monday Night Football all time. Only behind?
Patrick Mahomes.
No.
Peyton Manning.
No.
Drew Brees.
No.
Was it Jared Goff?
No.
Brett Favre.
No.
Baker Mayfield.
No. God, there's at least one name that should be thrown
Tom
out there.
Brady.
Threw for 517 in 2011 at Miami.
Nobody cares.
Here's your stat. Stop the music. Jameis Winston is the first NFL player to have 450 passing yards and 2 pick sixes in a game.
Elite company.
Jameis Winston is also the first NFL player to have multiple games of 400 passing yards, 4 passing touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. He's literally the only player ever that has done both.
Ever?
Ever.
So you're telling me
in NFL history.
I'm number 1. Okay.
In 2 things. Yes. Hey, listen.
He's the most exciting player in the league.
One of one in two categories.
He is the most exciting player in the league.
Especially when the microphone's in front of him.
Man.
I mean, honestly, he's the most entertaining. I shouldn't say exciting. He's the most entertaining player.
1,000%.
Because the league right now is a little boring. Let's just call it what it is.
Some characters, and he is absolutely
he is
that.
just
no doubt.
really fun.
He's a lot of fun.
You got to think of the 30 and 30 year when he had 30 touchdowns, 30 picks. He literally said, I'm balling. I just got to stop throwing it to the other team. He wasn't lying.
It's a fair analysis, I think.
It's honest.
Jerry
he is
Jeudy,
the perfect example of games are won and lost because he can do it all in one game. He can win it and lose it all in one game. He is highly entertaining. And I honestly think that if he could just clean it up a little bit, he really could be a good player. Like the sporadic
problem with that is I feel like
inconsistencies.
he's also the perfect example of my turnover genome not being able to be rewired.
he just always plays. Even if you watch his drills and stuff that they post online, it's like everything is out of control. Everything.
Including the pregame
You
speeches.
know what I'm talking just like his feet are out of control. Like everything's just a little bit too loose.
You know, it's not out of control, the 497 passing yards and the 4 touchdowns.
He went ham.
Balling.
Jerry Jeudy, 9 for 235. Most receiving yards by any player in a game against his former team in NFL history.
That's
I'll
a hell
stop
of a
right
stat.
there. That's it. Most ever against his former team all time. Also, Jerry Jeudy, 2 receptions for 20 yards with Pat Surtain as his nearest defender in coverage, compared to 7 for 215 against all other DBs. So, Bama on Bama crime.
Got him.
Apparently,
Lock him down.
Pat Surtain. Well, if that's why didn't you have him on him more? Than
Exactly.
If that's the case?
It traveled.
So, it was a historic game last night in the NFL for a lot of reasons. Some good,
How
some
much
bad.
did you watch of it?
Some both good and bad. I didn't watch a single minute of it.
I didn't either. Not one.
I was on an
second.
airplane. I had to get on the late flight last night because I couldn't get done early. But yeah,
I wanted to watch it.
I'm interested. One thing that now that things might slow down a little bit, I want to watch a Denver game, and I want to see Bo Nix operate this offense. I haven't been able to sit and watch many Denver games. There haven't been many on regular television. I don't have Sunday ticket, so I did see where you can get it for $80 for the rest of the year.
That's what you need.
I didn't
There's
feel like that's
3
a
weeks
terrible-
left. We have
No, there's
like
like 5, right?
Yeah, but we have Saturday games. We have
Right.
Christmas on Netflix. We have, like, dude, you'll miss if you don't buy it now.
No, I'm not doing it. Don't worry.
I'm about to say,
can't.
you are the cheapest person I know.
What?
Besides my dad, you're up there.
Okay. I'm just not going to do that. Browns will be at the Steelers this week
What?
at noon.
You sounded like Chris Berman.
I was trying to see if the Broncos are going this week, and maybe we would get them on. I think they're off this week, so you won't get them. Thursday, Packers at Lions.
Oh, yeah.
In your normal Thanksgiving Day game, a week after Thanksgiving. That was on Prime. Jags at Titans. By the way, Levis made some really good throws in that game.
He did.
This weekend.
Just, we were down 28-0 at that time.
Levis and Bryce Young, comeback team.
The comeback is happening. Year
back.
2. Year 2 comeback kids.
We back.
Coming back to what, 500?
Maybe.
I would like it.
I'll take 500. It's a 500 league.
A lot better than 2 wins.
Yeah.
Or no wins.
Or none.
Hey, he's got them 3-9. They're climbing.
We've seen better days.
I mean, listen.
It could be worse.
In the last 4 weeks, they doubled their wins for the
Thank
first
you.
8 weeks.
Exactly.
So, I mean,
It's a mean
there's
backstretch,
something
man.
to be said for that, right?
AFC South
Yes.
still up for grabs. We got Jacksonville this week. We got time to lock in.
Boy, that division.
They're still calling it the AFC South?
We are.
Golly, I
they
thought
call
it was called the Sun Belt.
Don't be disrespectful.
Whoa.
What?
Don't be disrespectful. Don't do it.
Jack State versus Tennessee? Tennessee minus 3.5.
How concerning is the
3.5.
CJ Stroud sophomore slump? Is it real?
Yeah. But, I mean, it happens. The jury's out on them. We got tape on 'em.
Saying it has not been what it was last year.
Exactly. That's why I say we have a puncher's chance.
Playing quarterback.
You don't.
We have a puncher's
Playing
chance.
quarterback
Damian,
up there is hard.
You're 3-9.
Yeah.
Stop.
But look at our division record.
Houston's 8-5.
And
Yeah.
One of those losses came to the Tennessee Titans.
Does not matter.
We're there. We're right there. We balling. We just got to stop, losing.
Yeah, balling.
All we need to do is just stop
5
losing.
games
Everything
left.
else is there.
Exactly.
We have them right where we want
You'll
them.
get your chance January 5th at home against the Texans,
Yes, sir.
who by that time will not be 5 games ahead of you in the standings. They'll be 9 games ahead of you in the standings.
So
luck.
there's time.
We let the Colts get away.
There's still time.
We had them. We let them get away. Still
Listen,
fighting.
I want Levis to work.
Me too.
Greg said we need more entertainment in the NFL. We need more meathead quarterbacks in the NFL.
Nah, I didn't say that.
We've gone straight GQ Rico Suave quarterbacks. I need more meathead quarterbacks in the NFL.
I'm with it.
You
We got
can
Bo
be-
Nix.
well, you
I need
can
Will
have that.
Levis. Give me all the meathead quarterbacks.
Bo Nix,
Let's
part
go.
of the Auburn family
Baker
still?
Mayfield's still there.
Auburn family?
That's up to him. I don't know.
Wow.
That's not my decision.
Wow.
I can't just throw that label around on people. It's not for me to decide.
What about Landon King?
Depends on if he wants to
What
play
about
receiver or not.
Cadillac?
Yes. Hour number 2 underway, Tuesday, December 3rd, Jocks 94.5. The app is in your app store if you need it. Search WJOX. That can take you right to the YouTube page to watch live. Can take you right to all the podcasts where you can catch up on anything that you missed. WJOX in your app store. 800-239-9569. You want to get in after Andy Burcham. We will talk college football playoff rankings and who should be, who shouldn't be in or out. Why should they be in or out? But he joins us each and every week. He is the voice of the Auburn Tigers, and he's with us thanks to our friends at Craneworks. It's Andy Burcham.
Lift it, load it, grade it, grind it, move it, haul it, rig it, dig it, Craneworks, Rentalworks, yeah! The big dog's got it.
The voice of the Auburn Tigers, Andy Burcham, on Mac and Cube in the morning is brought to you by Craneworks. Lifted, buy and rented, the big dog's got it. Now, Andy Burcham.
Andy, always great to have you in on a Monday. Rewinding back to the Iron Bowl, you had a seat there at Bryant-Denny Stadium. Was there anything that stuck out to you as, I guess, surprising that Auburn did not do in that game against Alabama?
I wouldn't say surprising, other than to say, and this is not surprising, Auburn had its chances in this game with the turnovers by Alabama. But two things stood up. Auburn's offense in the red zone, which was a problem for the Tigers, and getting off the field on third down are the two things that stand out. I know that's not earth-shattering information coming out of that ball game, but Auburn had chances in the game, did not take advantage, especially of the turnovers that the defense was able to force in that ball game.
One thing that I said, Andy, and I'm bummed I didn't get a chance to see you. I don't even know where the heck anybody is anymore in that stadium. Like, I know, I'm telling you, I know how to get to the suite and the field, and that's about it. So I wanted to see you, unfortunately wasn't able to. But explain to me this. It was one of those games where it never felt like Alabama was being threatened to potentially lose, but it also never felt like a game that Auburn was out of. It was a very strange game to be a part of, and I feel like that kind of summed it up. Did you have a similar feeling?
I did. And I really thought if there was a final turning point, Greg, in the game, it was when Auburn had the ball and was forced to take a timeout because it was running out of time on the play clock, came out of the timeout and tried to throw the halfback pass.
Yes.
With Jarquez Hunter. And if Auburn is able at least to keep that drive alive and is able to get it in the end zone, then it's a one-touchdown ball game at that point. And I'm not saying that Auburn goes on to win that game, but it seemed to me that was the final turning point in that game. Yeah, it was a little bit of an odd feel for the game on Saturday, and I couldn't put my finger on it. I'm with you. Auburn had its chances. I really thought that was the chance. That was the time, though, that if Auburn is able to get the ball in the end zone, make it a one-touchdown game, who knows what happens at that point.
When you look at this team, Andy, what are you going to remember about them when you think back to just maybe what this team did, could have been, players that stuck out? What will you remember about this group?
Well, a couple guys stuck out to me. Keandre Lambert-Smith in the season that he had was really, truly one of the better wide receiver seasons that Auburn's had in quite some time. I would have, just from a sentimental standpoint, I'd have loved to see him get over the 1,000-yard barrier this season for Auburn. He was tremendous.
They tried to get him there with the last few plays. I mean, like, he had how many? Yeah. I mean, what? How short did he finish?
I think he came up about 30 yards shy of 1,000. And I'd have liked to see him get to that point because he really was a huge factor. I will think back to
19 yards short.
Okay. Yeah, 19 yards. I will think back to Jarquez Hunter's season and what he did throughout this season, 1,000 yards for Jarquez. He was a warrior, I think, for the Tigers. I'll think back to Jalen McLeod's season and what he did, finally playing healthy in his 2 years at Auburn, and I thought he really stood out for the Tigers. But from a team perspective, it's what could have been for Auburn. And you think back to September and the loss to Cal and Arkansas and Oklahoma, and turnovers played such an enormous part. I mean, really turnovers from the end of September on were not that big of a factor for Auburn. But boy, they were an enormous factor in those 3 losses at home for the Tigers. So that's what stands out to me. What might have been for this Auburn team, probably more than anything else, because it was on the verge of a good season, not a great season, a good season. It turns into, from a record standpoint, a disappointing season. And now Auburn tries to sign another really good recruiting class and just tries to build on this season and get much better as it gets ready for the 25 season coming up.
What do you think will be the first priority for the staff? I've kind of gone around and around about it. Everybody wants to say quarterback. I don't know if I necessarily disagree with that. I mean, it makes sense that would be a high priority. 2 guys from Auburn already in the portal. Hank Brown in the portal. Shocked to see that. And then Holden Gurner also in the portal right now. So 2 guys that have already left the program. I guess my question would be, is it quarterback? Is it more depth along the front offensively? Is it maybe a bell cow running back? Like, what do you think? If you were in charge of the collective and you were in charge of their recruiting, what would you prioritize?
Well, I think quarterback is one. And let me say this real quick, Greg. I'm not sure that Hank Brown is in the portal yet. I know that it was reported over the weekend that he was, but then he came out and said that he is not.
Gotcha.
I'm not saying he won't. I'm not saying he won't be. He may. Holden Gurner, I mean, put it out on social media that he is in and he is going to be graduating here in a couple of weeks, and will have 2 years to play. And I can't blame him. I can't blame any of these guys for getting in the portal. Micah Riley has announced that he's in the portal at tight end, and there will be others. We know that.
Yes.
Coming up. Quarterback, I think, is the top priority for this team. But I do think that they've got to get better up front. And I think that they will look in the portal for someone up front, probably at tackle. And I wouldn't be surprised if they don't look up front for someone to add to that tailback room as well. And probably they won't stop there if we're talking just the transfer portal. Tomorrow is an enormous day for Auburn. I think Auburn is in line to sign another really good recruiting class, and getting the signatures of those guys. In this day and age, I think you'd hope that those guys, most of those guys, if not all of them, especially the incoming freshmen, get here in January. That seems to be the big trend now, is getting here in January and going through spring ball. Probably not all of them will do that. But if you look just at the portal and kind of reading the tea leaves right now, I think quarterback is absolutely one that Auburn is looking to get out of the portal. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't go after at least one offensive lineman, probably a tackle more than anything else. And I wouldn't also, just from an offensive standpoint, I wouldn't be surprised that if someone is out there in the tailback room that they can add, that they will certainly do that as well. And listen, they've got some holes. I mean, secondary is an area that they've got a lot of guys coming back that played a ton of minutes and a ton of plays this year as freshmen and sophomores. But you're losing 2 linebackers. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't go to the portal there. And you're losing some guys up front, guys to join Keldrick Falk and Malik Blockton and Amaris Williams, and those guys coming back for Auburn next season.
Andy Burcham joins us each and every week. Thanks to our friends at Craneworks. The SEC ACC Men's Challenge begins today. It will not include Auburn. Tomorrow will, and it's one that I know a lot of folks are excited about. Tomorrow night, 8:15 ESPN, Auburn at Duke. This team shows up at number 2 in the AP poll. I thought there was a legitimate chance they'd be number 1 with what they did in Maui. What did you learn about this team in Maui, maybe that you were uncertain of or just did not know going in?
That this team has the ability to come back in a ball game, and we saw that after the first half of the Iowa State game. Auburn trailed by 18 at one point in the first half, trailed by 16 at half. And in all 3 of the games in Maui, Auburn came out after halftime and really took control of all 3 games. So that was the one thing that I learned about this team, is that even if it falls back behind by double figures away from home, and granted it was a neutral site game, it has the ability not to lose its composure or to overcome a big deficit and come back and win the game. So that's the one thing I learned about this team. Another thing that I learned about this team is the fact that its big men in Janai Broome and Dylan Cardwell have the ability to pass. In the win over Memphis, and Cardwell was 8 of 8 from the field, scored a career high 18 points. And Janai Broome had a double-double in every game of the tournament and was named the tournament MVP. Those two guys combined for 12 assists against Memphis. That's your two bigs that combined for 12 assists in that game. And that shows me a little bit about those two guys. And for Janai Broome, especially because, I mean, he's your stud at this point. And when he gets the ball, and a lot of teams are going to double Janai this year, then he's not worried so much about scoring at that point as is find the open man and to get the assist. So those are a couple things I learned about this ball club. I thought Auburn was really impressive. I'll tell you that I'm not surprised that Auburn didn't jump Kansas because Kansas hasn't lost yet. And in the eyes, I mean, Kansas is one of those blue blood teams. And I'm not saying I think Auburn is the best team in the country right now, at least for one more day. But I'm not surprised that Auburn didn't jump Kansas. I'm not too worried. I don't think they're too worried about being number 2 in the country right now. And they get an enormous test in every regard in Duke tomorrow, because Duke is the biggest team in the country, and they will go 6'5", 6'6", 6'7", 6'9", and 7'2" in its starting 5. And Auburn has not faced that kind of size thus far this year.
What about Baker Mazzara? I was talking to some Auburn buddies before the game on the field, and all they wanted to do, by the way, was talk about the basketball performance this past week. And I obliged because I found it fascinating and obviously extremely well played. So Baker Mazzara, I know he came on as the season went along last year, but is he going to now be a real featured piece on a pretty deep group?
Yeah, I think he is, and he was also named to the all-tournament team in Maui. He was all-tournament team at the SEC tournament a year ago, and he's such a versatile player because he's a slasher. He can get to the basket. He's 13 of 29, so he's almost shooting 50% from 3. He's shooting 57% from the field right now, which includes 13 three-pointers and 88% from the free throw line. He and Denver Jones are lifetime over 80% free throw shooters. But what you said, Greg, depth, I think, is one of the big keys for this Auburn team. It is deep and it is varied in its depth. And other than Janai Broome, who has been Auburn's go-to guy, and almost 21 points, 13 rebounds, and almost 3.5 assists per game. But it seems like it's a different guy every game. And I think that's important for Auburn because there's going to be somebody that will find a way to take Janai Broome out of a game. It will be fouls or something. And somebody else or more than one have to step up for Auburn from an offensive standpoint, and they've shown the ability to do that.
Andy, always great visiting with you. We appreciate it each and every week. And as our listeners know, you're brought to us by Craneworks.
And I hope folks know that Wasteworks, a Craneworks company, provides roll-off dumpster rentals in the Birmingham area with a wide range of sizes and fast service. They are your source local dumpster rentals. Visit wasteworksusa.com for a quote. Are you guys working this weekend?
Greg is doing the ACC championship game in Charlotte. I will be on the Pat McAfee Megacast for the SEC championship game alongside Marty, McGee, and Harry.
Behave yourself, Cole.
Doubtful, Andy. I'll try. I'll try. It'll be fun.
Enjoy Charlotte. I think that's going to be a good game, Greg. I do.
I hope so. I think it's one of the more intriguing games. I really do.
Yes, it is.
Not saying it's as a self-promotion. I really genuinely believe it's it's maybe has the most and it's at the end, so there's a lot of tentacles to the conversation that we'll have in the game. So it's going to be fascinating. I think loser has a chance to be out, real chance to be out. If it's Clemson, obviously, but if SMU somehow finds their way on the losing end, could be a dicey Sunday for the ACC.
I think Grant Lashley's done one of the better coaching jobs in the country this season. I really do.
Yeah, he's been great. I'll tell you, Coach of the Year is going to be tough in college football.
I submitted my picks yesterday. It's not easy.
Andy, thank you so much. We appreciate everything.
My pleasure, guys.
Catch
Have
up
a great
next
one.
week. Yes,
Take
sir.
care.
See you, buddy.
Andy Burcham joining us on the Buyers Right Hotline. He joins us thanks to Craneworks each and every week. Before we move into that Coach of the Year talk, quickly, if you are interested in kind of how this thing's going to go over the next 2 days, massive matchups. Tonight, starting at 6, Arkansas, this is men's basketball, by the way. Arkansas, Miami, Notre Dame, Georgia, Cal, Mizzou, South Carolina, Boston College, Syracuse, Tennessee, Georgia Tech, Oklahoma, Wake A&M, Ole Miss, Louisville, Florida State, LSU, Kentucky at Clemson. Tomorrow, starting at 6:15 on ESPN, Bama at North Carolina. That's from the Dean Dome. It's going to be fun. Virginia at Florida, Auburn at Duke, Pitt at Mississippi State, Texas at NC State, Vanderbilt at Virginia Tech. 8:15 on the ACC network for that one. Auburn, 8:15 on ESPN. That's 2 good days of ACC, SEC basketball. Coach of the Year. That one was tough, man.
Have you submitted yours yet?
I did.
Me too. It's hard.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys.
There's 6 or 7 that have really, really good arguments. Really good arguments.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I had trouble coming up with just next, like second and third as well. We'll talk about it a little bit more on the other side next, right here on Mac and Cube in the morning. We'll talk some college football playoff rankings here. 800-239-9569 if you want to get in. Also, Jacksonville State last night knocked off Columbia International in men's basketball 89-59. We also mentioned college football's coach of the year. These are the coaches Greg and I were asked to submit votes for first, second, and third on. So, John, you can chime in, give us yours. If you want to call in, text in, tweet in, you can give us yours. You talk about just a tough list. Kurt Cignetti, Indiana. Dan Lanning, Oregon. Deion Sanders, Colorado. Rhett Lashley, SMU. Spencer Danielson, Boise. I mean, remember what we said about teams first year going into a new conference?
Yeah.
That just doesn't happen. I mean, Lanning, yeah, Oregon's been there. They're close.
A little different.
Rhett, obviously, in the championship game.
Right.
Remember how weird that deal was when Spencer Danielson took over, too. Like, I mean, that was an odd
So
one.
weird.
Shane Beamer, South Carolina. What was their win total this year? 4?
It wasn't high.
Jeff Monken, Army, after last year. It's been a really nice year for them. Barry Odom, UNLV. I don't think people historically understand how bad UNLV football has been. John Summerall, Tulane. Now, that thing was sort of teed up a little bit, but John's done an awesome job. And Kenny Dillingham brought Arizona State out of nowhere. Now, that program has had a lot of bright days, but nobody saw this coming. Nobody.
No.
Not even close to this. So I could honestly vote first for every one of those for different reasons. Every single one of them.
Yep. It's been a good year. I do think sometimes we get a little lost in the, oh, well, here's what your expectation was. Here's what you were. I think you can make a very strong argument for Dan Lanning, even though, people don't often give the top jobs a lot of credit when it comes to coach of the year because you often have to overachieve. But to me, the biggest shock this year has been Arizona State and Indiana. So those are my top two there, Cignetti and Dillingham, whatever order you end up going in. And then I think the third spot, there's a bunch of really good options, whether it's Prime at Colorado, whether it's Rhett Lashley, who you want to talk about stepping up in class from the AAC to the ACC and having your team one win away from a first-round bye in the college football playoff is pretty remarkable.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Boise sits at 11-1 right now. They'll take on UNLV at 10-2, and you go back through the 10-win seasons at UNLV. Greg, how many do you think that there have been historically?
2.
You're staring down the barrel of your first one.
Forever?
Ever. 9-win seasons in UNLV football history.
2.
3.
Anyone? Well, there was one prior to this season the year before. That was also Barry last year.
Yeah.
1979, 1977, 1976. Hell of a run there. Late 70s by old Ron Meyer and Tony Knapp.
Big Ron?
Getting it done in D2.
Ron Dog.
That would be it. Those are your only other 3.
Hmm.
So
it's
you want to go winless seasons in UNLV football history?
6.
1983, 1984. Harvey Hyde, not surprised he didn't make it past
double
the
H.
next year. Double.
Don't know them.
Didn't get there. Also,
another great Harry there though.
COVID not nice to the guys in the desert. 0-6 in 2020.
Over.
Not great. Not great.
The best, if you're trying to make an argument on behalf of Barry Odom, the best argument you have is that his quarterback quit in the middle of the year and they didn't skip a beat. That's all you literally don't need to even say the historical significance of anything that's gone on. Literally did not skip it. It got better when their starting quarterback decided to leave the team. All right, no problem.
You could almost not even say
See
quit.
ya.
You could almost just say door open for. No, thank you. Door open. We'll leave your gear outside.
I'm not sure I understand, but I get.
It's okay.
I vibe it.
All right. Eric in Birmingham wants to talk college football playoff rankings. Welcome in, Eric.
Good morning, fellas. How y'all doing?
Doing
Morning.
great, thanks. Come on, Eric.
Hello, Eric.
I think that, y'all hear me?
We lost you
got
for
you.
a second. Got
We
you
got
back
you.
now. Yes. All right, we're gonna
Eric.
try back. Tom in Birmingham. Tom, welcome in.
Good morning, guys. In a perfect world, with a perfect committee, I think this would be a great formula to have for picking the 12. And it's the sliding scale of absolutely, maybe, and no way scale. And the question is, can your team run the table? That means winning 3 or 4 games. Pick the absolutely can run the table, and you may feel 8 or 10. The no ways are out, and it's fun to pick the no ways and the maybes just to put them aside. But the maybes are fun too, because they will fill in the last 2. But with a knowledgeable committee, you have to put teams on there that absolutely can run the table. And there are quite a few. And I would like to see what your criteria would be to place those teams in those slots and see how that works out. And that takes in all criteria too, because when you get the absolutely can run the tables, then the criteria falls in for the rest. Great show. Thank you very much.
But if your life depended on it, my answer to that one is, I understand the thought process. It's the teams that can peak. Do you believe that they can actually go toe-to-toe? And there's a real question in some cases about some of those. But how many do you actually trust? That, I think, is the big problem, is that while there are teams that can, when the stars align, a la Ole Miss, we talked about them earlier.
Yes.
I mean, Ole Miss, man, their best day is not a day I want to show up on the other sideline against them.
No.
Bama's best day, I don't want to be on the opposite sideline against them. Ohio State's best day, I don't want to play against them. Like, okay, yes, there's a handful of teams. Yeah, I absolutely, on their best day, do not want to see those teams. But on their worst day, I know that my JV team can get them. You know what I mean? Like,
that's saying a lot.
That's a concern,
that
right?
Happens that way.
That's a concern. So it's hard to trust these teams this year, man. A lot of inconsistencies across the board.
Before we get to break, tell our listeners about Crocker Moving Services and how they can help them around their homes.
Local company owned by an Iraq War veteran, Eric Crocker. Crocker believes in hiring movers you can trust to complete full background checks and run drug tests on every single employee. These are good guys, and you can trust them in your home. Whether you need your whole home packed to move, your company headquarters, move across the country, or you just want them to come rearrange your living room, these guys got you covered. They also do deliveries for furniture that you personally need to get to your homes. Call them online today for a free quote. The website is crockermovingservices.com. It's crockermovingservices.com. Support your veterans by choosing Crocker Moving Services for your next move.
All right, so when we come back, we'll talk to James Crepia. He covers Oregon, who Greg was just mentioning with Dan Lanning, the job that they've done on the brink of being the number 1 overall seed in the college football playoff. Do we reference it that way? Number 1 overall seed? Is that how we're going to say that?
Yeah, I think
there's not going to be multiple ones, so there's not a number 1. I guess you're just the one seed, but they're the world's number 1 seed in college football.
Yes,
maybe
the world champion of seeds.
And
if
their
they
corporate
win.
champion. Who? Allstate, I guess. Predictor.
Yep. Allstate feels right.
All right.
Speaking of funny story, son on his Christmas list wants an Allstate shirt.
I thought you were going to say you wanted the duck.
Literally an Allstate. I already got him the duck from the first game of the year. We did the Allstate kickoff, Allstate kickoff deal. So he now associates Allstate with college football, and he thinks that if he gets an Allstate shirt, because of all the commercials that with Prime and Coach and all this other stuff. He thinks Allstate is college football, so he wants an Allstate shirt for Christmas.
I bet I can make that happen for
I'm about to say, we know
so much for Jake from State Farm.
Tell me who's more corporate than the McElroy family. We know how to ramp it up.
So much for Mayhem guy. He's out in the McElroy house.
Dr. Pepper?
Not invited to Christmas. There will be no Mayhem at the McElroy
Well,
Christmas.
if he knew Dr. Pepper existed, he'd be vibing that too, I'm sure. But yeah, we're all about our corporate partnerships.
All right, we'll be back with James Crepia. Talk Oregon. Are there concerns heading into the Big Ten title game? Next, right here on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning.
Welcome back, McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, Jack 94.5. Now's a perfect time to head over to Bromberg's Wednesday and Thursday, so tomorrow and the next day at both stores in both Mountain Brook and the Summit. It's that time of year. They're going to do their store-wide pre-Christmas sale, which means 20% off throughout the store. You can shop on diamonds, gemstones, designer jewelry, find timepieces, fabulous giftware, and more. They have an uptick in inventory this time of year, so you'll get that beautiful, timeless, generational piece that you'll have in your family for a very, very long time. Make your Christmas wishes come true with that silver Bromberg's box under the tree this year. Some exclusions apply. See store for details, so go and check them out. Mountain Brook Village and the Summit, or you can always shop online at brombergs.com. All right, James Crepia joins us now. He's done a great job for a very long time at the Oregonian. A lot that has been going on with the Oregon Ducks this year. Undefeated, 12-0, the team in college football right now at the top of the list. James, what's going on, my friend?
Oh, not too much this morning. How you guys doing?
All good. I guess initial reaction when seeing Ohio State fall and knowing in all likelihood the Ducks matchup with the Buckeyes Part D was not going to happen. And now it's Oregon, Penn State for the Big Ten championship. So what was the immediate reaction amongst Duck fans?
Well, I think obviously quite a bit of surprise, probably from both fan bases, because after all, ever since October 12th, it was kind of the foregone conclusion by most everybody that those two teams would be rematch regardless of the outcome, and particularly with the way that the game ended. And yeah, I mean, clearly it wasn't just conjecture. I mean, you had players, you had Ohio State players saying, we'll see them again. So yes, they were clearly looking ahead for quite some time to that opportunity. So yeah, surprise, but ultimately from this fan base, I mean, they didn't have that long to react before they had a rivalry game of their own to cultivate their attention for the better part of Saturday night. So let's put it this way, I wouldn't say there was an abundance of revelry and cheers and all that, because I think a lot of them were looking forward to a rematch with Ohio State. And that said, I think they respect Penn State and are looking forward to seeing a matchup that, for most of these fans, for fans of a certain age out here, it's a rematch from the '95 Rose Bowl that really marked the start of modern Oregon football for what everybody under 40 sees as Oregon football these days. But for those of a certain age out here, they remember what the beginning of all this looked like, and it started with that remarkable '94 season and the matchup with Penn State in the Rose Bowl. Looking at Oregon and just how they've performed in their first year in the Big Ten, I don't think any of us are overly surprised. I think Dan Lanning's done a good job of kind of creating an SEC style of offensive attack while still fortifying the trenches the way you need to fortify the trenches in a league that is very much about the line of scrimmage. So is this at all surprising to see you guys have immediate success in the first year in the Big Ten? Not to anybody who's been paying attention. That's a simple, and I say that in that you guys do, because Dan, Tosh, Mario, you pay attention to and see what was going on here before Dan got out here. You remember all the NFL offensive linemen that Mario was producing before Dan ever got out here, and that Kayvon Thibodeau was here, and et cetera. I don't know, to some folks in the Big Ten footprint, some, not all, but to some, particularly in the West Division, or what was the West Division, I don't know. I spent an entire offseason hearing questions about how they would have to adapt to the physicality of the Big Ten. So I don't know. They were the preseason number 3 team. If you didn't pick Ohio State to win the league, you were picking Oregon to win the league. And if you knew how they were built and who they brought in, both in recruiting and transfer portal and the like, I don't know how this was a surprise whatsoever. And for as much as the offense is generating attention, and it should, frankly, this team is this good because the defense that had not a ton of deficiencies, but had some last season, and that's why they didn't make the playoff, addressed those deficiencies in a big way. And credit to Tosh Lupoi specifically. I mean, he is, look, you guys know, I don't have to school you or your audience. He was there at Bama. He was there in 18 as the DC. Things went the way they went. Well, he is a different coach and play caller now. He is. And now, look, it's funny how much smarter coaches get when they have better players. But it's not just a matter of better players, all right? look, they lost a ton of guys who were producing sacks for this team last season. And yeah, they added some big-time defensive tackles, one of whom could very well end up being a first or second round pick. No doubt that helps. But that in and of itself is not why this defense suddenly got good or a lot better. They developed a lot of this, and you've seen it from Mateo Uyunglele. You've seen it from Jordan Burch. They brought him from South Carolina, becoming and reaching his potential. And yes, adding Derek Harmon and Jamari Caldwell was significant too. But for as much credit as Dan deserves and the offense deserves and the like, no, this isn't surprising. But the biggest development of this team and why they're the number one team in the country is because of this defense and what Tosh is doing.
Well, I think a lot of the reason why they develop as well as they do is they play so many guys. I remember doing, a couple of their games last year. It's like, goodness gracious alive. I mean, they must have 35 guys in their defensive rotation. So to see the development is really not all that surprising. And to see the improvements is not surprising. As we visit with James Crepea, does a great job covering Oregon in the Big Ten for the Oregonian. Very kind of him to get up early with us. If you look at Dylan Gabriel and his ability to just step right into this offense, I've been very impressed with his maturity this year. He's been a guy at times that is a little bit too aggressive. And I think Will Stein at times as a play caller last year, maybe a little too conservative, too much dink and dunk, too much catch and run. So it feels like it's kind of a perfect marriage between the two. And as a result, the offense has kind of flourished. So how has Dylan Gabriel changed Will Stein, and how has Will Stein changed Dylan Gabriel?
Yeah, so it's kind of morphed over the course of the season, and even week to week, there's a little bit of variance there. Because, for example, with Tez Johnson was out for a couple of games, basically got hurt in the opening drive, the opening possession of the Michigan game on November the 2nd, and was out for the following two games against Maryland and Wisconsin. So if you looked at the Oregon offense in those three games, particularly at Wisconsin, and then look at the Oregon offense of not just this past weekend, but in the weeks prior, funny how when you take a 1,000-yard receiver off the field, how things look a little bit different versus when he's out there. And it's not just about Tez and his production. Again, you guys understand this, especially Greg playing quarterback. You get it. This isn't a base 11 personnel offense.
Yeah.
That'll go 12 and can go spread 12. And that even incorporated more 20 and 21 and even 22 a little bit. But, they did more of that this year. Well, when you looked at the three games without Tez on the field, they were covering up a whole lot by running a lot more 12, a lot more box and bunch stuff and compact stuff. And that's why, frankly, it looked the way it did at Wisconsin. And credit to the Wisconsin defense, too. All of a sudden, you put them back out there, and they're back to being the spread 11, spread 12 look that they were earlier in the season. And all right, yeah, Dylan didn't throw the ball in the air for a huge chunk of yards this past weekend. They didn't have to. It was cold. It was windy. It was night game, be that as it may. But ultimately, that's the style of offense that's here. And they do have some explosiveness, particularly with Tez and Evan Stewart on the outside. And they'll still do the catch and run thing, and he's still taking the check downs and the easier passes, just as Bo did, to running backs, to a lot to the tight end, to Terrence Ferguson or Kenyon Sadiq. They do a lot of that. They do a lot of eye candy with that, screens, tunnel screens, and a lot of stuff where, like everybody's starting to do now, the passes behind the line of scrimmage so that you can avoid the ineligible man downfield stuff and everything. So they incorporate a lot more of that now. But ultimately, it's been that marriage, like you talk about, of the checkdowns that are still there, maybe not in quite the same abundance, in part because Bucky Irving was a better receiving running back than Jordan James is, and he's still awfully good. James is probably the better true running back. But they have the outside speed that, when healthy, can really take the top off.
They certainly do. It's a lot of fun to watch their wideouts. And I do think that's something that has been missing in the Big Ten. You cover
the forward pass.
The forward pass. No, there have been teams that have utilized that, but I think sometimes we look at like the defensive numbers and also like who has weapons besides Ohio State. I mean, Michigan's had some decent receivers for sure. Penn State's had Jahan Dotson, but other than him, it hasn't been outrageous. And maybe Maryland's had a guy or two over the years, but I mean, how many teams? Wisconsin hasn't, Iowa hasn't. Northwestern hasn't. Indiana hasn't. I mean, how many teams have actually had weapons in recent years? I mean, Keon Coleman was on Michigan State team. No one even knew he existed. Goes to Florida State and lights it up. So has the league just lacked weapons, or have they lacked the ability or willingness to utilize said weapons over the years?
I think the league definitely had issues with any aspects of that, with offensive play callers, with being, again, particularly when there's the divisions, which let's not act like that disappeared a long time ago. This is the first time,
right.
The first year without them. But the West Division, you had to play a certain kind of way because that's who you were playing. And to a certain extent, look, go back to the Pac-12 era, that's what the North Division was, except for Oregon. And then when Mike Leach showed up in Wazoo, what they became. But it was a market inefficiency. It was, okay, everybody else is going to be running 13 personnel, especially Cal and Stanford, and they're doing their thing. Well, what was the West Division of the Big Ten? Minnesota, Iowa, Nebraska, Northwestern, Wisconsin. This was just how many big offensive linemen can you trot out there at one time and have a running back that's going to run for 1,000 to 1,500 yards in a season? And don't worry about throwing the football. I mean, look, until Ohio State broke the trend, the Big Ten hadn't had a first-round quarterback since Kerry Collins from like 85 to only about 4 or 5 years ago. So, yeah, that was a big part of it was you didn't have the receivers, but you have the quarterbacks. Now with the West Coast schools showing up, and some of them, more ahead than others.
Sure.
Yeah, Oregon's got the offense. SC traditionally has the offense. Washington, all right, they caught them on the year after they had the offense,
right.
But I think Jed Fish will get there. They have this young cat who's awfully nimble. Looks like if they can get some weapons around him, they got something promising there. And UCLA, we'll see. Yeah, but you compare that too. Forget it. I mean, you can't talk about it in the same sense. Now, Nebraska, maybe we'll see what Matt Rule's able to do with Raiola. But no, I mean, Iowa's offense is better than what it was, but that ain't saying much.
No, it's certainly not. Lastly, James, before we get you out of here, and we really appreciate the time. The Big Ten, I mean, they're going to get 4 in. Do you think the national champion will ultimately come from the Big Ten?
I'd say if I were betting on it, and I'm not, most definitely not, you'd probably have to pick that because of both Oregon and Ohio State, no matter how ugly Ohio State looked last week. But having said that, there are deficiencies there's no super team this year. There's no runaway, and that's including Oregon. There just isn't. There's not a lot of deficiencies for them, but in the right matchup, in the right circumstance, I'd want to see the bracket first. And I say that, and that's not a cop-out, Greg. This is a matter of saying,
no, it's true.
Is there going to be is there a cannibalization matchup? You say there's 4. All right, let's assume that there is for the sake of argument. Okay, yes, you're right. Okay, does the loser of this game have to play Indiana or Ohio State in the first round? In that case, I'm not so sure. If you're going to bump one off automatically before we even get to the quarterfinal, then I'm not sure yet. And what's the matchup of the other one in the first round? Because if that's not favorable, if the loser of the SEC championship game has to play Indiana or Ohio State, and the other one has to play the loser of the Big Ten championship game, and we're bumping off 2 Big Ten teams before we get to the quarters, I'm not so sure. Having said that, I do think Oregon is the best team in this field, regardless of whether they win the Big Ten championship or what the bracket ends up setting up as. But let me see the bracket before I get to, proclaiming which conference is going to be, hoisting the trophy on January the 20th.
Yeah, I think it's smart. I just think this is such a weird year. It's so many games have come down to like third down and red zone. And I think it's a wise play. It's going to be very matchup driven. James, we really appreciate the time, my friend. You guys can always check out James's work. Just Google James Crepea, Crepea. You can also go to the Oregonian to check out his fine work. Appreciate it, my friend.
Thanks, guys.
All right, James Crepea joining us here on Mac and Cube in the morning. A lot of interesting things there. Like, I think the Big Ten is slightly overrated. God's honest truth. I think it's slightly overrated. Doesn't mean the national champion won't come from the Big Ten. I just think collectively there are the haves and the have-nots in the Big Ten. And Northwestern ain't beating Ohio State. It's not even close. You know what I mean? Whereas if you look at, say, Kentucky in the SEC, I think Kentucky could beat one of the top teams. They did. They beat the Ole Miss Rebels. And as a result, it has really shaken things up. So I do think the SEC is a tighter bunched group. And the Big Ten, there's a wider gap between the haves and the have-nots. But it will be interesting moving forward to see exactly how these teams fare in postseason competition, because that's where I'm most intrigued by is the postseason competition. It's a different animal that wins in the postseason, and we'll see if the Big Ten can continue on. One thing that I don't need to see is that I know B-Dry. I don't need to prove it with them. I know B-Dry is going to get your basement or crawl space waterproofed. I know they're going to get your foundation repaired. I know they're going to stop all 5 ways that water can enter your foundation. This is the largest waterproofing company in the country. They're the only company with a solution that stops all 5 ways. And they have a life of the structure warranty. So they have the strongest warranty that you can possibly get here in this field. Strongest warranty, job done right, and the best price, meaning you don't have to pay $1 for 12 months. 12 months interest-free, no payments. By calling 942-1976 or visiting bdryalabama.com. All right, when we come back, we'll do a little bit of a conversation about outside the SEC, a little Big Ten, a little Big 12, a little ACC next on Mac and Cube in the morning. Welcome back, McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, Jock 94.5. Little Big Ten, Big 12, ACC conversation. We all know that the ACC and the SEC is about to have a real knockdown, drag-out fight about the college football playoff. I get it. The Big 12, we have, I think, a very intriguing matchup between Iowa State and Arizona State. Winner obviously makes the college football playoff. I don't know if they'll get a first-round bye. It'll be interesting to watch, see where they're seated. But do you have a lean early in this one, Cole?
I just think there's something about this Arizona State team. I think this will be a short game. Obviously, Rocco Becht wants to try to get it going, but yeah. I do think Arizona State a little better up front than people give them credit for. I think they can be problematic there. He's turned it over a couple times this year, and Arizona State doesn't want this thing going in there. They don't want that to play from behind. But every time they're put in a bad spot, they seem to find a way and kind of bounce back. So I lean Arizona State right now in this one.
Iowa State can't stop the run.
That's a problem.
So
against that group.
Yeah, I mean, Cam Scattaboo wants to run the football. Like, he's going to get a lot of looks. He's going to run it with a lot of consistency. Dude's really good out of the backfield. He's good on the inside and the outside. He's a really versatile piece. I mean, he's a lot of fun to watch. And I cannot envision a scenario where they're going to be in a great spot. Stopping the run. Unless Iowa State all of a sudden becomes better against the run, I don't know how they win this one. I really don't.
Well, I think, like I mentioned, Beck can push it down the field a little bit. I think that if they can grab a lead, force Arizona State to play a different style game, that would probably be the way that I think if you're looking for a path for Iowa State to be able to get that win, that's where I would go with it. But don't feel great about it.
Shouldn't.
What's the line in that game? I have not seen.
2, I think. 2.5.
Arizona State -2. Okay.
Yeah. What about Big Ten? Can Penn State make it happen?
It's hard to say make it happen, but I do think that there are ways that they can be problematic. If I am James Franklin, I want to try to remove the quick passing game if at all possible. The problem there became when you go back to games like Ohio State, what they do, they hit them up top, and it was an issue. So I think you take your chances with the shot plays and the deep throws because Penn State has pass rushers that can get home. I think they have looks that can be problematic. One thing that I like about Oregon is they lean professional with their pass protection. And so it's difficult to get them in situations where just you're going to get home with scheme. It was one of the things talking to Joe John Finley this week before the LSU game. He's like, listen, if we have to throw the ball around a little bit, one thing that we've tried to kind of work on is let's not give up pressures and sacks based on scheme.
Yeah.
And I think what he means when he says that is, and we've talked about it a ton on this show, is we've seen all these slide busters, all these new pressures and blitzes and simulated pressures where if you slide your protection one way, you're basically got. And Georgia did it to Texas a couple of times. Roman and I talked about it last night on Read and React, where Georgia made Texas wrong. It wasn't about losing one-on-ones. It wasn't about getting beat around the corner. It's just the protection they forced them to get to. They were wrong because they knew if they got there, what they had coming the other direction, they were going to get home. You're not going to be able to do that a lot against Oregon.
Right.
And that's where I give them a lot of credit this year. So I think Penn State has guys that can win one-on-ones up front, maybe show some different things and back out of it. But I try to take that quick pass game away best you can. And then if Dylan Gabriel gets his up top, he gets him up top because he's going to probably get him anyway. I at least try to get to him, hit him, maybe get a turnover or two because he hasn't done it much this year. And offensively, I think Penn State has enough to be able to move the ball on offense.
Yep.
I'm not as scared of Oregon's defense as some other people. Not saying they're not good, but I think flipping that conversation around, Greg, Oregon does win with scheme on defense more times than not.
Yeah.
And they got a couple guys that can play, but I think 70% of the time, Oregon's winning with scheme more so than they are individual players.
I don't disagree. I think they have good scheme for sure. And I do think they have some decent pieces up front. They've gotten better on the interior they've been in the past. I think Penn State matches up better against Oregon, though, than they do against Ohio State. They can match them a little bit better with their athleticism. Ohio State's not as athletic up front, which I think is going to be very interesting to watch because those tackles have not been great against super speed this season, at least in what I've seen from Oregon, but I don't know how you feel about it.
No, and I do think that that Oregon front seven packs a little more punch than maybe it gets credit for, but I think Penn State can be competitive in this game. I think they will be competitive in this game. I don't know if they get the win, but I think they can keep it close. We'll get back about it next on Mac and Cube in the morning. I do want to finish this conversation about a couple of these championship games. I don't feel like we went in depth. You seem a little down on Penn State. That maybe you don't think. Well, that's been all year.
I would say welcome to the jungle.
Okay.
It's not a little. My problem with Penn State is I don't think they have elite weapons outside of their running back and their tight end. And I don't even know if the running back's been at 100% this year. So that's been my problem with Penn State.
Hadn't played like it.
So,
but their defense is good.
Defense is excellent.
7th nationally in rush defense, 6th nationally in scoring defense. If they can minimize the explosives down the field and get this into their style football game, they're a methodical football team. That's what I see when I watch Penn State. They've got to make Oregon play that style game. And if they can do that, I think because of how they use the tight ends and how they operate in the run game, some of the things that they do work well against a defense that's going to try to out-scheme you. It's going to try to trick you or going to try to give you things that you're not prepared for, free guys up, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Their scheme can handle that and manage that. Now, they have a quarterback who I think is always on the brink of making a mistake. And that's what I don't – it makes me nervous. I never feel – it's one of those guys that when I watch Drew Aller operate, I never feel fully confident that the play is going to work. And that's just me. That's just kind of my opinion. Maybe it's because he lumbers. He has a long delivery. I don't know. I just always am like on edge that it's not going to work. I'm just like, oh, he's going to drop the ball. Oh, he's going to throw it to the other team. It's just he feels like that guy. Now, does he make some plays occasionally? Yes. He does. He does some good things, but that's just where I am with him.
He's got a decent ceiling. I think he's a pretty good player. I wouldn't go as far as to say he's a guy I want to bank everything on, but I am a pretty big fan of his upside. I think he's a little more athletic than people realize. That's one thing that I didn't know he had this year and have seen a couple times this season is his athleticism on display. I did think he was just a tall drink of water there for a while, and I think there's maybe a little more to it there, but I don't love their wide receivers at all. I think their defense is rock solid, very solid defense. I'm not sure they've been tested a lot through the year. Who's the best collection of wide receivers they've faced this season? Ohio State, right? And Ohio State knew that if the game was 16 quarters long, they weren't scoring. So they didn't have to take a whole lot of risks. Ohio State didn't.
Played SC, though.
Yeah, played SC, and SC got after him.
Not saying it's a great group of receivers, but
I think it's a really good group of receivers, and I think SC got after him.
Yeah, well, had to go to overtime to get the win.
So
now, granted, you're at the Coliseum in front of what, 18, 20,000?
Oh gosh, here we go.
I'm saying, yeah, it's a tough road trip. It's a long way. Remember, they had to bus twice for that trip, Greg. Remember?
It is a harder road trip.
Coach Franklin telling us how hard it was going to be to take an extra bus trip.
In fairness, it is a harder road trip.
2 hours.
It's a harder road trip than any road trips that SEC teams have to take if we are going to play devil's advocate.
Can we get the Penn State players the portable DVD players, please?
That would be fire.
Can we get them the anti-skip protection in their Discman for the 2-hour bus trip?
TBD.
God forbid they have to sit on a bus in today's day of technology. What are they going to do? How do they do it? How do they find a way to win in overtime is the question.
Don't shoot the messenger.
Drew Aller threw for 391 in that game.
Has anyone, how about the people that have to travel to Penn State? Has anyone been there besides me?
I have not.
Oh, my gosh. Beast. It's like Atlanta to Harrisburg, 90-minute drive.
Worst trip, Como or Happy Valley?
Worst trip is 100% Pullman, Washington State.
Well, that wasn't. That's a given.
That's 24 hours. It's a 24-hour trip. I can get to Rome before I can get to Pullman. But yeah, in the SEC,
as good a ball though.
They don't play it over there. I ain't seen nothing like this. Gosh, it's a tough one. I think. Yeah, I still think Happy Valley's worse.
Not until they expand that airport.
He's begging for the money. It's not going to happen, though. All right, so there's a couple ones coming up this weekend. We'll got plenty of time to break down the rest of them. You lean heavy Boise Friday night.
I don't lean heavy Boise, but I lean Boise for sure.
4-point favorite against UNLV. I think it'll be, but being on the blue turf, it's hard not to like Boise in that game.
I don't know. It's very hard. And they already beat UNLV at UNLV. I think Boise's playing good ball. But I don't think it's a guarantee at all.
What did Crepia have to say about Oregon? Does he have any concerns? Is he worried about anything?
No, not overly concerned. Just think they've done a really good job putting the roster together. Thinks it'll be interesting. He said fans kind of wanted to play Ohio State again, just to prove to everybody, like, hey, that wasn't a fluke. But now it's going to be interesting. I still believe, and maybe I'm just crazy, I still believe that Oregon has some flaws. I know other people think that they don't. They think they're that elite team in college football. I've watched them a few times. I like them a lot. I think you catch them on the wrong day, they can run you out of the gym. But you catch them on the right day, anyone can get them. Like, I really believe that. And maybe like I said, maybe I'm dead wrong. And we'll see. They might go on and win the whole dang thing. It'd be awesome if they did. It'd be cool to see a new team win. They've never won a national championship. It'd be neat. But I watch them and I don't see a flawless football team by any stretch. Last year's team scared me a little more than this year's team, to be honest with you.
I was trying to just look down the schedule and who has maybe forced them into the most mistakes. Michigan State, Gabriel had 2 picks. I mean, that's the only game he's had multiple interceptions in this year. Illinois got one from him. Wisconsin got one from him. UCLA, he hadn't had a lot of games. Purdue got one from him. So it doesn't feel like a lot of people have forced them into a lot of mistakes, which is what I think you're going to have to do. And Penn State has a little bit of the recipe available to be able to do that. So if they can figure that out, I think it's a good game. I think it's a competitive game. It's a little bit of a new spot for Oregon. So I'm interested to see it, because I'm interested to see what Penn State can do if they really rev up. And I'm interested to see if Oregon can sort of be on that level again. They lost a turnover battle to Boise. They lost it to Michigan State. They lost it at Michigan. Those are only 3 times they've been minus in the turnovers this year. Michigan, you can understand.
Yes.
That front will give you some problems. Michigan State, I don't. 31-10 still. Handled the game. Boise, we know how that game went. That was a tight game, close game, turned it over early. So I think that's going to be a big part of it. 9:07, Tuesday, December 3rd, right here on Jocks 94.5. I want to quickly tell you about our friends at Wayne's. Not just your yard that's now in dormancy. If you want that thing ready for spring when it gets warm again, Wayne's needs to be treating it now. Not the termites, even though they can help you with that. But now, not keeping the bugs out of your house, it's the rodents that Wayne's can keep out of your house. They have wildlife removal and prevention services right now, Greg, at Wayne's, and they want to help our listeners with that if they're having trouble.
Yeah, the wildlife stuff is terrific. It's a great addition to all the services that you'll receive from Wayne's. You'll understand what I'm talking about when you call them at 866-WAYNES-1. Ask them about the lawn care. Ask them about the termite. Ask them about the smart pest, safe, pet-friendly, child-friendly. They'll get you taken care of. Call them today, 866-WAYNES-1. The wildlife's great. 866-WAYNES-1. Visit callwaynes.com and let Wayne's continue to create your happy place.
All right, let's go to the Buyers Right hotline. Bob wants to talk scheduling. Welcome in, Bob.
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Y'all know way more about it than I do, but it just appears that the collective, talking heads for college football don't fully appreciate the gauntlet that the teams in the SEC have to run. Now, some have to run routes that are much more difficult, like Oklahoma as compared to Texas. But that being said, I don't think it's appreciated how difficult it is to go to Gainesville and then go to Arkansas and then, even playing a Vandy team. The Big Ten doesn't have anybody like those teams. They've got your top 3 teams that have NFL players and are elite. But the SEC has 6, and then you're still not even counting Florida and Arkansas, Vandy, and those schools and they go play at Auburn at night and see how tough it is. I just don't think that's appreciated enough, and there's going to start to be a rub when you begin to leave top 12 football teams out. Not necessarily saying Alabama's one of them, but if you think South Carolina's not one of the top 12 teams, I think you're crazy. I think that's going to begin to be a source of irritation for the SEC and that needs to be recognized more. I'd love to hear what y'all have to say about it. Hey, guys, thanks for taking my call.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I think that there are, I've heard a few people this last couple of weeks, Greg, saying things like, I think people are going to ease up the schedules. With when you look at a couple of these teams that are ranked towards the top and don't have massive strength of schedules, why would you not just go out there and get a bunch of lettuce games, go out, try to stack up wins, and hope for the best? Maybe you fall into the top 12 of the college football playoff rankings. I do think from the business side of it, though, do those games generate revenue? We've talked a lot about extra ways to generate revenue, right? Well, you schedule a big home and home with somebody, that's not your conference's revenue. That's your revenue when they come.
Right.
And that might be a way to generate more. So I don't know if scheduling the directional schools from Division III are going to be doing a lot for your bank account moving forward.
Probably not. What I would say, everybody that's concerned about the College Football Playoff Committee and what they, what their purpose is, just know this. There are a lot of football people on the playoff committee this year. And there have been times in the past where I have wondered, man, I wonder if there's one voice. That's always been what's concerned me. I wonder if there's one voice that is kind of held above all else. Like when Barry Alvarez was on the committee 10 years ago, I was like, well, you really think anyone in the committee room is going to stand up to Barry Alvarez and say, Barry, you're wrong? So I was worried about that one person being able to kind of control who gets in and who doesn't. But I can tell you this, Mike Riley, everyone familiar with Mike Riley, former Oregon State head coach, played ball at Bama.
Played at Alabama.
Correct.
National championship team.
Coached at Nebraska. He's on the committee. Gary Pinkel, coach at Missouri. Like he understands the gauntlet of the SEC. He gets it. Okay. Like these people know ball. Jim Grobe, who turned down the Alabama head job in 2006. Certainly was in the mix. And I, based on my understanding, had maybe a fake offer, but there was an offer made, I think, at one point or another for Jim Grobe, who was the head coach at Wake Forest at the time. I think it was one of those, like, he won't take this, just throw this out there just to appease people. But Jim Grobe on the committee, like, there are coaches on this committee that know ball and that know what they're doing. And none of the three have outrageous egos either that are going to basically enforce their own thought process on the other 13 members, which to me is really encouraging. Like, I think we need diversity in the committee room because the way you view it might be different than the way Cole views it, the way different that I view it. Damian, Saber, we might all look at it differently. And having that diversity in thought is really beneficial when trying to get the 12 best teams. If you had 12 coaches, I don't know if that'd give us the best result because there are more than one way to skin a cat. So I think we need to give the committee a little bit more credit. Chris Alt, by the way, is also on the committee, who was the head coach at Nevada for like 30 years.
Hunter Yurachek played basketball in college on the committee.
Like, these people know. Like, we need to
leave
them
out Randall McDaniel and Will Shields, two of the greatest offensive linemen of all time.
Well, they're in there for
knowers of ball.
They're there for the tight copy. And to be honest with you, I've played with a lot of people that don't know ball. So I'm gonna be honest with you, like, playing ball doesn't mean you know ball. So I think they probably know ball. I don't know that for sure. Like, I mean, plenty of guys that knew, all right, I knew a slant route, but I don't really know what cover 2 is. You know what I mean? Like,
I bet those two know what a combo block is.
They know how to
put their hand in.
They know how to get up to the second level. So yeah, there's a lot of people that know ball in this committee, and I would not be too concerned about it. And I believe wholeheartedly that they'll get it right. I hope. We'll see. I don't like how little stock they've put on. I don't like how little stock they've put on strength of schedule this year. Knowing how different and imbalanced the schedules are, I don't like how little stock they've put on it up to this point. Doesn't mean they can't still get it right, but I don't like how little they've put on strength of schedule up to this point.
Here's my question, and I mean this in all sincerity. Will there be a right? Because I don't think there will be.
No, because I think you'll have people up in arms because there's a lot of people that subscribe to the idea that
there's never going to be a
10-2 football team is better than a 9-3 football team. There's a lot of people that believe an 11-1 Indiana is better than a 9-3 South Carolina because they have less losses. There's some people that believe that, and I'm not inclined to necessarily disagree. I'm just there to suggest that it might not always be about win-loss record. There might be more to the story. That's where I live.
Okay. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, where it goes, but I don't think there can be a right. There's a right for you. There's a right for Damien. There's a right for John. There's a right for me. There's a right for certain groups of fans, Alabama fans, Ole Miss fans, South Carolina fans, but there's not going to just be a right. It's never going to be. There's always going to be a team that should have been in, could have been in. Why aren't they in? This team versus that team, this record versus that record, this strength of schedule versus that one. You know, we talked about this on Read and React last night, and Roman's like, what do you value most? And I'm like, what I see when I watch the teams. I think undefeated is amazing. I think you should get credit for it. Should it be end all be all? No. I stated my case for head to head. I think it's valuable. I think it should matter. But it can't be the only thing you keep talking about. Because if that's the case, then you got to start putting the teams. Northern Illinois should be ahead of Notre Dame. And if you laugh at that, then don't make head to head your only argument. It can't be. Otherwise, start putting those teams ahead of the other team.
But what do you start?
Michigan ahead of Ohio State?
But what do you say when you say when all else is equal, you lean on head to head? That is the ultimate tiebreaker.
If we played in Atlanta right now, South Carolina, Ole Miss, who are you taking?
Ole Miss.
I don't think I am. Damien?
Ole Miss.
John?
I think I'd lead South Carolina.
Y'all watch the Egg Bowl? They did nothing in that game.
Do you realize how much they had to play for?
A spot in the playoff?
They're not in the playoff. They know that.
But
them winning by 50 or 10 didn't make a difference. And if you want to
I'll tell you what I would have done. I would have gone out there and tried to win by 150.
If you want to
at least state my case.
If you want to go on culture.
Here's how I'd have planted my flag. A lot of touchdowns to my receivers.
Yes. If you want to go on culture, if culture's the sticking point as to who should be ahead, I don't think Ole Miss is going to win that battle.
Alabama, Ole Miss in Atlanta tomorrow. Who are you taking?
Alabama. But it'd be close.
I'd take Ole Miss.
John?
I'd take Bama.
I'd take Alabama. South Carolina, Alabama, Mercedes-Benz Stadium this afternoon. Who are you taking?
Alabama.
Carolina.
Whoa.
Carolina's too one-dimensional. The problem with Carolina is they're too one-dimensional. And I know that nobody wants to talk about that because they want to just, wrap their head around how good Lenore Sellers is and can be. There's no denying that. Lenore Sellers is an excellent player. But they have no wide receivers that scare me. None. Not one. I like their back. I think Rocket Sanders is rock solid. And I like number 6, Josh Sermon. I think those three guys, Simon or whatever, those three guys are excellent. Really good players. But I think their left tackle's a liability. I think their offensive line's fine.
It's not good. It's not a great offensive line. It just isn't.
I think they're fine. So if you can only win the game with your front seven defensively and all I need is 17 to beat you, I kind of feel okay about that.
I will say linebackers are good, veteran safeties. It's more than just the D-line. But the defense in its totality is very good, yes. And I do agree with you on receivers. I think if you had a team that could play man and could be good in it, and stack the box and give extra bodies against the screen game, extra bodies against quarterback run and traditional run game, you're going to be able to give them some problems. You would.
Who would you take? Alabama, South Carolina?
Right now, with extra time to prepare, I would take Alabama. If we just threw them on the field this afternoon and played, I'd probably take South Carolina. Bama versus South Carolina backyard ball, I lean South Carolina heavy because they're getting to the quarterback. Now, you let Nick Sheridan and company put a plan in to be able to offset that group?
Oh, no way. Hang on. We get to plan out games now?
No. Sometimes a short week.
Short week? What?
Kind of like when Oklahoma gets 2 weeks of playing Alabama and they kick their ass, and then they get a short week versus LSU and they get their ass kicked. That's kind of how it goes.
Short week like a regular size week.
Saying.
You're telling me the Oklahoma week for LSU.
This is what we're going to find out. Teams that have to turn around and play another playoff game the next week, that's going to be different. You're not going to have a month to prepare, 3 weeks to prepare.
Figure it out. 10 days.
Okay.
Yeah, I think South Carolina, look, I think they're good, but I think they're a touch overrated here, guys. Like I know everyone's really enamored with what they've done down the stretch. I get it. I called their A&M game, for crying out loud. Like, I've seen it up close. Like, I've seen it. I think they have really good linebackers. I think they have a really good defensive line. I think you can get on their corners because they're physical, they're long, but they're not great cover guys. And if you have a passing attack that is good with above good to great wide receivers, I think you can wear them out, which is exactly what Ole Miss did. Because if you and by the way, did that without Trey Harris. And that was really before Jordan Watkins got going. They didn't even look in his direction. Juice Wells was like the go-to guy in that game because they felt like they needed to find a guy for Trey Harris. I just am I'm not as much of a believer in South Carolina as others. I know that they want to junk it up, play bully ball and all sorts of stuff. They got great D linemen. They have D ends that scare me to death. They're awesome. They're phenomenal. I absolutely love their D line. But outside of that, I think I can get after them as long as I play it on the perimeter. Now, I'm not talking catch and runs because they got everyone in their back end is like 210 pounds that can fly around and hit you. So I got to win some over the top, but I think I can do it.
Okay. Before we go to Heather Dinich on the other side, get her thoughts on what these rankings are going to look like tonight. What is she most curious to see? And I heard audio from her earlier in the week, I think it was yesterday, talking about the difficulties in the SEC getting that fourth team in. So join us on the other side. You have to wait for that first. But one thing you never have to wait for, Greg, is your dental care.
It's because Family Care Dental has you taken care of. They're the urgent care office. You can be seen the same day in several locations. And have now recently added another location, Hoover, Fultondale, Homewood, and Alabaster. But they've recently added one in Trussville for all of our wonderful friends in Trussville, a tremendous part of our town. They have now added a Family Care there for you as well. They can get you in. Fridays and Saturday appointments are available, and they're accepting patients of all ages and most insurance plans. So call them today, 874-9605. It's Family Care Dental, 874-9605.
All right. When we come back, Heather Dinich on tonight's college football playoff rankings. Next on Mac and Cube in the morning. 9:25 Tuesday, December 3rd. A little bit behind already, so let's go right to the Buyers Right Hotline. Welcome in Heather Dinich of ESPN. Heather, we played your audio last night on Read and React talking about the SEC potentially getting that extra team into this college football playoff. Is the ACC championship, is that literally where that hangs? Is what in the balance of the SEC adding a fourth team to this college football playoff?
Well, I think Miami is where it hangs in the balance, and they're not in the ACC championship, because if Miami is in tonight, I think Alabama is out. But if the Canes are out, then I think Alabama is in. I'm less certain about Miami, and I'm more confident in saying that Alabama, Ole Miss, and South Carolina will continue to stay in that order in spite of how good South Carolina has played lately.
What do you make of the way the committee, and you and I have talked about this, and look forward to seeing you here in a few hours. But we have kind of wondered, all right, the committee is valuing wins and losses more this year, seemingly, than they have in the past. It usually is about strength of record. It's about game control. It's about strength of schedule. All those things seem to have taken a back seat this season. But I am still of the belief that things are going to change this week and potentially on Sunday. So I know it's not unprecedented to have a reverse course when it comes to those other metrics. Do you think this committee might start to put a little bit more of an onus on it?
You know, I would be surprised if it changes this week, because they've been at least consistent in rewarding teams like Indiana, like Miami, like Penn State, right, in spite of weak strength of schedules. And this is just a different group. And you're right, we have talked about there are 6 new committee members in that room, and what they're doing hasn't aligned with our strength of record metric, which historically has been almost spot on in the 4-team college football playoff in the past decade with the top teams in the country. This has certainly been a different spin on it, which is why I go back to Miami in my bracket, guys. It's because of 2 close losses to Syracuse and Georgia Tech. They're not great losses. They shouldn't have lost those games. I don't disagree with that by any stretch. But the committee will talk about that, and they will compare it to 3-loss Alabama, 2 of those losses coming to Oklahoma and Vanderbilt, which each have 6 losses. And I know it's going to be hard in that committee meeting room for at least some of those committee members to get over Alabama's loss to Oklahoma. That one in particular is a devastating loss for the Tide.
What would it sound like if a certain committee member then offered up, let's weigh the wins of those teams?
Well, 100%. And Alabama's win against Georgia is better than anything Miami has on its resume.
The win against South Carolina might be better than anything they have.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. And that is a very real conversation that will be in that room. And you can make a case either way. You really can. Just the lean towards Miami in that room to this point is the only reason I hedge towards the Canes, because in their public comments, and Selection Committee Chair Ward Manuel over the past couple of weeks, the way that they have liked that offense in particular and Cam Ward has really carried the day in that room and having Miami where they were after the loss to Georgia Tech. And remember, that's the same Georgia Tech team that just pushed Georgia to 8 overtimes. We were all awake for that.
What about kind of the bottom of the rankings? Because I do think the bottom of the rankings will help us understand a little bit what the thought process is at the top. So I'm really fascinated, and I'm curious your thoughts, Heather. How does the committee stack up teams like Louisville, Duke, and LSU? Because those 3 teams, if they are 21 through, say, 25, could kind of show us their thought process on the ACC versus the SEC as a whole. So do you think those are independent of each other, or do you think that can be an indicator that we apply later today?
Well, I think they're independent of each other when the committee does the ranking, right? But at the same time, then you do see, to your point, just like Illinois going into the ranking and helping Penn State, how that all ties together. I mean, I would even throw Syracuse into the mix there. I think they're 8-4. I mean, do they somehow sneak in at 25 and then all of a sudden it's a loss to a CFP top 25 team? I don't know the answer to that, but you're 100% right in that all helps to shape the contenders' resumes. And I would also add to look where Clemson is in relation to the Big 12's best teams, Arizona State and Iowa State, guys, because if you have Clemson ranked behind those teams, is a win against SMU in the ACC championship game enough for Clemson to move up against the Big 12 winner and keep that first round bye as one of the 4 highest ranked conference champions? So this ranking tonight, guys, is interesting from 1 to 25.
Is there any other conference championship game that you feel would shock us as to how it changed or altered the rankings if the game went a certain way this weekend?
I think the ACC, the Big 12, and the Mountain West Conference championship games are going to be very impactful to the final bracket on Selection Day. And if Boise State loses to UNLV, then does the Big 12 champion surpass the Mountain West Conference champion for that bye? We still have scenarios where you can have the ACC, the Big 12, the SEC, and the Big 10 champs dominate those 4 first-round byes as the highest-ranked conference champions. We also have a scenario where the ACC is the 5th, or the Big 12 is the 5th. So there are a lot of things that could still happen, but it's those 3 conference championship games that will have the biggest influence, I believe, on Selection Day.
All right, Heather, we appreciate the time. Enjoy it tonight. Have fun, and we'll see how this thing plays out. We'll have you back again soon.
Sounds good. Get up here, Greg, so we can talk about it more.
Yeah, right. Really look forward to the travel to Bristol. Always do. It's just such an easy place to get to.
Bundle up. See you soon.
There you go. Heather Dinitz of ESPN talking college football playoff rankings coming up tonight. We all agree the ACC championship game probably does the most in shaping this playoff. Which would be next, in your opinion, of the conference championship games this weekend?
I think the most impactful is the ACC. Just as far as how it could turn out. If Clemson somehow beats SMU, which is absolutely a possibility, then you have a 3-loss Clemson team that is in the field. Do they get a first-round bye? Will the Big 12 team that wins it get the first-round bye in front of them? Does Clemson even get a home game? Is something that is also fascinating. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of angles to this that could be interesting because Clemson might be sitting there at what, 18 or 19 a night? Thereabouts? I don't know. If you look at Clemson's best win, it's Pitt, who has now lost 5 in a row. Think about that. Clemson, best win, is against a 7-5 Pitt team. Their next 2 best wins are against a 6-6 NC State and a 6-6 Virginia Tech. Overall combined record, winning percentage for Clemson amongst the teams they've beaten is 400. Pretty wild when you take that into account. And then the couple teams they played with the Pulse, Louisville and Georgia, killed them by 19 points and 31 points respectively. And they recently lost to South Carolina in what was a much more competitive game than the previous 2 against quality competition. So I don't know what to make of Clemson. Not saying they don't deserve to be in. They win their conference, they're in. But how do you slot them when compared to the Big 12 title winner?
Yeah. All right. It's interesting to think about, and we're going to see tonight how this is going to play out. Golden Domer wants to talk about it. He's on the Buyers Right Hotline. Domer, welcome in.
Top of the morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
We got a big night tonight. But Greg, I've been listening to you, and I listen to your podcast, and like always, I typically we don't have similar views on a lot of things, and I will say we had the same opinion on the planting the flag. I'm on your side on that one. But I will say this, Greg, and I just wanted to get your perspective because I feel like you have an influence, you have a voice. in your opinion, if Greg had the deciding vote, if SMU loses to Clemson, who do you put in? Who does Greg put in, SMU or Alabama?
I'd put in Alabama.
Okay, so the only thing that I'm going to give you some pushback on is 2 weeks ago, before Alabama was eliminated from getting into the SEC championship, you emphatically said that if you make it to your conference championship and you lose, you should not be punished. But
Correct.
in fact, now you're saying SMU should be punished and let Alabama jump them.
I've also said from the very beginning that the ACC and the Big 12 should be one-bid leagues. I've said that from day
the
one.
Contradiction, though, that if SMU did what they're supposed to, they made it in their conference championship. You were emphatic that you should not be punished if you lose in the conference championship. But now that it's not Alabama that would get that benefit.
It has nothing to do with Alabama. It has everything to do with the fact that the ACC is not anywhere near as strong as the SEC, nor is the Big 12, which is why I've said from the beginning that the SEC championship participants and the Big 10 championship participants, I cannot envision a scenario where those teams in a losing effort in a conference championship setting where a loss would be held against them. You have to remove the conversation centering around the SEC and the Big 10 because they're held in a higher regard. I don't think the ACC is deep or strong, and therefore, I don't think the ACC should have multiple representatives.
Okay, and let me give you a little pushback on that.
Sure.
I think at some point in time, Greg, we might need to be kind of reevaluating our opinion on the SEC. I'm not simply saying the SEC is not a good league, but I mean, guys, we've seen Georgia get pushed. Georgia Tech, a team that Notre Dame blew out. Several other teams have beaten them. We've seen
Notre Dame played Georgia Tech with their backup
Georgia
quarterback, so it's a little different
That's
circumstance.
fine, but we still destroyed them. But I'm just saying.
Who was their quarterback at the time?
Is the SEC as good as we thought, Greg? I mean, is Ole Miss as good as we thought? No. Is Alabama as good as we thought? Absolutely not. I mean, Greg, that's the thing we got to think about. Y'all's performance against Oklahoma.
Who's y'all?
Okay, Alabama. I associate you. You're alumni. I would say the performance of the University of Alabama against Oklahoma is one of the historically worst performances I have ever seen a top 15 Alabama team play. You scored 3 points.
Was it a worse performance than Ohio State's performance against Michigan?
Yeah, I would.
Was
say
it a worse performance than the performance we saw from Penn State against Ohio State, who scored 6 offensive points in the performance?
Well, Penn State is not on the bubble as far as getting in the playoffs.
Penn State
we're
is
discussing a 3-loss.
I understand that. All I'm saying is if we want to cherry pick results, it's easy to cherry pick results where teams don't look very good. I don't disagree with you at all. Alabama's loss against Oklahoma in many ways is unforgivable. And if other teams had taken care of business, we wouldn't be having this conversation. The problem is teams haven't. And people are always like, oh, well, it's...
SMU has looked very good.
I think SMU has, but they also play in a league that is of comparable difficulty to a high-level G5 league.
I don't know about that, Greg. I think Louisville's a pretty quality team.
I think Louisville got smoked by Stanford earlier this year, so I don't disagree. I really like Louisville, and I gained a ton of respect from Louisville in watching them play against Notre Dame and them actually moving the ball with great consistency against Notre Dame when Notre Dame was relatively healthy. That was when Benjamin Morrison was playing and Boubacar was gone, but they still had some guys.
Kentucky. I mean, they just slaughtered Kentucky. The only thing I will say to you, Greg, is I respect your opinion. I really do. And I think some of the points you're making, I agree with.
Yeah.
I just think you may need to notch down your perception of the SEC because I feel like Alabama's not what we thought they were, Greg. They've looked average.
Maybe I need to notch down. Maybe you need to notch up. And it might have remove me as an Alabama alumnus, dude. Like I think the problem is the problem that from my perspective, everyone just assumes it's through the lens of a homer. It's really not. It's more through the lens of respect for the league that I played in and having called games and been in person watching teams with my own 2 eyes and acknowledging the difference that I see between SEC teams and say NC State. I've also seen Notre Dame up close and personal this year. Highly impressed with what I've seen from them. Now, still wonder that in the event in which a team they play could stop the run, can they beat them? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that yet. But I still think through my own eyes that there are teams that have elevated to a whole new level. And I don't see that throughout the ACC. In fact, I see very little of that in the ACC, and I see even less of it in the Big 12. So it's more about my respect for the SEC and the fact that I think the league is still littered with pros and littered with talent, and I just don't see that in many other places.
Thank you, Domer. Appreciate the time. We got to get to a break. Be back with more Mac and Cube right after this. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Appreciate you guys being with us. Some portal news quickly, Greg. USC quarterback Miller Moss going to head to the portal.
Good pickup wherever he goes.
Arkansas quarterback Malachi Singleton.
Good athlete.
Liberty quarterback Caden Salter.
Good player.
UAB quarterback Jacob Zeno.
Love him.
We'll have Trent Dilfer and Rhett Lashley first hour of the show tomorrow. Also, center Brady Wilson from UAB in the portal. Richmond quarterback Camden Coleman. Coastal quarterback Noah Kim. Got it.
Love it.
A lot of them.
So who's who?
A lot of guys hitting the portal.
If you could have anybody that's hit the portal so far at quarterback, is there one that stands out to you so far? Like I said, so far.
Miller Moss or Caden Salter? Miller
Moss for me.
Okay.
I like Miller Moss. I think he's good. I think he got scapegoated a bit. Offensive line wasn't protected very well. Threw a couple picks. And they felt like they needed to go with a more mobile option, which I understand. He's not a terrible athlete. He's just not a game breaker. But I think you get him in the right system with decent protection, he can carve you up.
Okay.
I like that kid.
All right. Those are some of your players that have announced that they're going to head to the transfer portal. Holden Garner, Hank Brown from Auburn, both announced they're going to head to the portal. Offensive lineman E.J. Harris from Auburn, also going to go to the portal. Florida wide receiver Andy Jean.
Did Hank Brown announce? Because according to Andy, he said he hadn't yet. I was under the impression that he was in. But I don't know. Hank Brown was one that I saw him in. He was listed as in. And then I asked Andy about it earlier today, and no, he's not in yet.
I thought I saw that somebody reported he was going in.
I thought he was in.
Need to go back and see who.
I don't know nothing about nothing.
Well, you know a couple things.
I think he makes a lot of sense at a place like Army.
Okay.
Mobility.
Yeah.
What do you think? Where
No,
should he go?
Not
Army?
No.
Not a great system
I don't
fit?
think that would be the one for him.
No.
When you have to start over school-wise, too?
Yes.
All no credit
totally.
transfer. Yeah. Ugh.
LSU quarterback Ricky Collins is in.
I don't know enough about him. He a dude?
Their offensive coordinator likes him a lot. Talked to him on the field before the game about him.
Everybody likes the backup. Most popular guy on the team, I've been told.
Sometimes, yeah. All right. Tell you about the Gusty Goulas Group. They are the most popular people in town when it comes to helping you find new real estate or get rid of your home. Gusty Goulas Group, brokered by eXp Realty. Call 205-542-1996 today. They're going to help you get into a new home. Over 835-star Google reviews. Most agents, they're going to start marketing after you list with them, not Gusty. He markets long before he meets a potential seller. That's why he's got those buyers lined up. Served over 3,000 home buyers and sellers in the greater Birmingham area. And since 2012, Gusty Goulas Group recognized both nationally and locally as Greater Birmingham, Alabama's #1 team in homes sold. If you need a new home, want to know the value of your home, go to GustyGoulasGroup.com or call 205-542-1996 today. We'll be back with a bad box score of the day next. get to our bad box score of the day here in just a moment. We got a couple of good ones. First, T-Mac, tell our listeners about Polar Bear Services.
Polar Bear Services, terrific group. Very much appreciate everything that they've provided for me. Wes and the guys have helped me out with electrical. They've helped me out with plumbing. They also specialize in the HVAC. So knowing it's going to be a little hot and a little cold all throughout the week, make sure that you are prepared for the cold winter months ahead by calling Polar Bear Services. They'll get you tuned up. They'll get you cleaned out. And they'll also do repair and installation if you need it. Remember, if you have a problem with your electrical, plumbing, heater, or air, just pick up the phone and call the Bear. It's 205-497-BEAR. It's 497-BEAR.
All right, let's get to our bad box scores of the day. Going right into it. All right, the start in men's college basketball. We mentioned Jacksonville State. Gamecocks knocked off Columbia International 89-59. Roll over to the women's side. The Arizona
Wildcats.
Lady Wildcats.
They just snuck past the Seattle U
Supersonics.
Surge.
No, they're the Crusaders.
They're the Redhawks.
That's
78-43 last night.
That's okay. That's not all.
It's
Seen worse.
Seattle U shot 15 of 53, 6 of 28 from 3. They did hit 7 of 9 free throws. They were out rebounded 46-26.
Seattle, you stink.
And only 50% from the line for Arizona yesterday. 26 turnovers for Seattle U in that bad box score of the day.
Not great.
Taking to junior college men's basketball. The Tallahassee State College
Thoroughbreds.
Seminoles.
Tomahawks.
They're the Eagles.
Wow.
What? We're against the Eagles now? What's the problem?
It's just simple. I mean, if you're going to be an obscure college, at least have a fun nickname. Eagles.
Okay.
What have they done for America?
They snuck past the North Florida Prep.
Crocodiles.
No, they're the Wildcats.
Let's say birds. Just generic.
Like all of them?
Yep.
The ones that don't exist?
Like
Yes.
every single one of them?
Correct.
They are the Myrmidons. Myrmidons?
Birds might have. Bird might have. Bird.
Myrmidons.
I think birds is a better option.
Myrmidons. I would have just gone with mermaids because they were sunk 106-36.
Ugh.
Ugh. Don't want to be part of your world. Ugh.
The Myrmidons shot 14 of 62.
Wow.
They did put up 33s.
There we go.
Lord.
Okay. Steph Curry like.
Just 30?
They hit 3.
Okay. Seth Curry like.
The old 10%.
30 threes.
30.
They made 3.
It happens.
How'd you do that quick math?
14 of 62 in the game, as I said. They had 17 rebounds. They had 3 offensive rebounds.
Oh. 0 hustle.
I'm not sure they crossed the 3-point line. They were out rebounded the game 60-17.
They shouldn't even got off the bus. That's disgusting.
They turned it over 13 times.
Just 13?
Tallahassee State College shot 37 of 67, 13 of 29 from 3.
They got hot.
19 of 32 from the free throw line.
Ugh, not hot there.
Whew. That's a lot of trips to the free throw line. Julius King Jr., 6 of 7 from the 3-point line last night. He had 20 points. Alabama maybe in the bad box score of the day last night. Women's team now 9-0, 98-49 over the Georgia State Panthers. I don't know if that's going to go that far to really get in. But also last night in women's hoops, the Southern Illinois
Salukets?
Salukis still.
I mean,
Still.
Just snuck past the Central Methodist
Mustangs.
Patriots.
Warbirds.
I feel like
Directional
I feel like
Methodist.
everybody should just guess Eagles every time, and you're going to get a bunch of them right.
We really should.
They are the Central Methodist Eagles.
Oh, okay.
Eagles lost 74-38 last night.
It's actually not that bad.
It is. Actually, it was 17-9 at the end of the first quarter. They were outscored 20-8 and 21-6 in the next 2 quarters.
Oh, boy.
They shot 16 of 55 from the floor, 4 of 21 from 3. Did hit both free throws.
There we go.
There's a positive.
100%.
Now, the Eagles only turned it over 31 times in the game.
Now, that's bad.
You gave it back to them 31 times.
31.
Southern Illinois, 29 of 77, 5 of 20 from 3. Out-rebounded 54-24.
Okay.
Yikes.
Sometimes teams are just better than you.
I didn't think the rebounding differential was going to be that bad.
That's
like
not
it happens
great.
a lot more than sometimes, but yes.
Yeah, that was gross. That was awful. All right, those are your bad box scores of the day. I want to tell you about my friends at Game Day Men's Health. If you are feeling on edge, if you are lacking sleep, if you lack energy, Game Day Men's Health wants to help. Could be the effects of low testosterone. They can help you now. Go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com, schedule a free consultation, get a free PSA test, free testosterone test on the spot for free. Then they're going to know what your health is looking like, and then they're going to present ways that they can help you. Multiple plans, and mention Cube, save 10% on any of those services that they offer. Holistic approach to health and wellness. Locker room environment, stress-free, not going to try to push you to anything that you don't want. Get all the facts at GameDayMen'sHealth.com. That's GameDayMen'sHealth.com. Remember, minimal upfront cost from the programs that they do offer. If you missed Andy Burcham, James Crepia, Heather Dennett's podcast, available JocksFM.com. Tomorrow, Rhett Lashley with us at 7:20, Trent Dilfer with us at 8 a.m. We'll talk to Larry Williams, preview ACC championship game with him from the Clemson perspective at 9 a.m. tomorrow. So a lot more college football talk coming your way. Greg's going to be on the College Football Playoff Rankings show tonight, 30-minute edition.
30 minutes.
ESPN.
6
local.
o'clock. Yep.
6 local. I'm sure Greg and Joey will have some nice back and forth tonight about starting quarterbacks sitting out conference championship games.
That's my biggest take today.
Why play?
Why play?
Don't play. The 5 seed's better.
Sit everybody.
Yep.
All right, we're back tomorrow. 3-man front coming at you next. The more